Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share, and subscribe. Enjoy today's episode.
Duan Tian was unaware of the undercurrents that were currently brewing outside. Deep into the night, Duan Tian was lying on the lawn in the rear courtyard, hugging Ku Er on the left and Li Fei on the right. His legs were crossed above him as he looked up into the heavens with a slightly blurred gaze. A full moon shone high in the sky, and a dense array of stars stood out in the night sky. "Scoundrel, why didn't you go out tonight?" Li Fei asked curiously. She remembered that last night and the night of the day before yesterday, Duan Tian went out with the two men the divine Might Marquis sent him. Tonight, however, he departed from his usual habit and actually had time to accompany her and Ku Er to gaze upon the stars here. She had heard of the matter of the two Su clan direct descendants being killed, which gave rise to much discussion outside, and she subconsciously felt that it was very likely to be linked to this man. "Little girl, you want me to go out so badly?" Duan Tian's right hand slightly exerted more force. He pulled Li Fei into his embrace before lightly slapping the little girl's sexy buttocks and simultaneously grabbing it twice. Instantly, Li Fei's sensitive and delicate figure trembled, and her face flushed crimson. It was as if it would drip out blood at any moment. "Young master, you're bullying big sister Fei Fei again." Ku Er's clear and melodious voice sounded, causing Duan Tian to feel refreshed in spirit. He hoped so much that this moment could become eternal, holding the two girls within his arms until the heavens and earth gets old, and until the sea dries up and the rocks decay. 1. But unfortunately, he was clear that this was only an extravagant hope, and there were still many things that were waiting to be done by him. What he wanted to do now was create a place of his own in this world where the strong were revered. And only when he stands at the peak of this world will he be able to bring along these two girls to travel to every corner of this world and fully see the wonders of the world. Only that was truly living, truly free and unfettered. At that time, there wouldn't be anyone capable of posing a threat to him, and everyone could only look up to him. "Ku Er, do you think that this is unfair to your big sister Fei Fei? Don't worry, I won't favor one of you over the other." As Duan Tian spoke, he had an evil smile on his face. He raised his hand and slapped Ku Er's buttocks before lightly grabbing it. "Young master, you're so bad." Ku Er threw herself into Duan Tian's embrace out of embarrassment and was shy to raise her head for a long time. Duan Tian stopped flirting with the two girls and seriously said, "All right, give me your spatial rings. I'll help you two inscribe an inscription tonight." "Young master, what inscription are you inscribing for us?" Ku Er's gaze shone, and after she removed her spatial ring, her watery eyes were filled with curiosity. Li Fei looked at Duan Tian as well. After being together with this man for so long, she'd long since been accustomed to how miraculous he was, but she was still curious about what inscription he was going to inscribe for them. "Bone corrosion inscription." Duan Tian received the spatial rings the two girls passed to him and lightly smiled. Subsequently, he introduced the effects of the bone corrosion inscription to the two girls. For a moment, both the girls were frightened to the point that their faces went pale. Duan Tian shook his head with a smile, as he wasn't surprised by the two girls' reactions. Duan Tian stood up and returned to his room with the two spatial rings, and after he withdrew the pile of materials from his own spatial ring, he started inscribing. Inscribing two bone corrosion inscriptions in a single night greatly consumed Duan Tian's spiritual force. After completing the inscribing process and returning the spatial rings to Ku Er and Li Fei, Duan Tian couldn't hold on any longer and directly fell soundly asleep on Ku Er's bed. Ku Er lied beside Duan Tian. Her eyes stared at Duan Tian's handsome face, and a smile of happiness appeared on her beautiful face. It was precisely because of this man that her life underwent a tremendous change, and her entire life would be lived for this man without regret even until death. At dawn the next day, when Duan Tian woke up, he felt dizzy. Only after sizing up the surroundings did he realize that he wasn't in his own room, and he recalled what happened last night. "Right, I fell asleep in Ku Er's room last night." Duan Tian noticed the young girl sitting cross-legged in cultivation at the side after he stood up. Duan Ling Tian hugged the young girl from behind, causing the young girl's delicate figure to tremble and was jolted awake from her cultivation. "Young master, you're awake?" "Yes." Duan Ling Tian nodded as he greedily took a deep breath. The young girl's natural body fragrance was always so pleasant to smell. Duan Ling Tian and Ku'er went out together to have their breakfast after Ku'er helped him change his clothes, and only after that did he walk out of the house and walk towards Paladin Academy. A regular day passed just like that. At dusk, after walking out of Paladin Academy's gate, it was calm and tranquil like yesterday. Besides Zhang Qian and Zhao Gang, he didn't notice any other third parties watching him from the shadows. Duan Ling Tian didn't dare be careless, as he was clear in his heart that the more calm it was, the more likely it was that it was a calm before the storm. Suddenly, Zhang Qian appeared and respectfully said to Duan Ling Tian, "Young master, the Marquis requests your presence." Duan Ling Tian's brows knitted, but he didn't feel it to be unexpected, as presently the Su clan was on guard as if faced with a formidable enemy, and this was something well known to every household within the imperial city. Thus the divine Might Marquis estate would have naturally heard of the news. That Uncle Nier of his would surely put his suspicions on Duan Ling Tian because of the fact that Duan Ling Tian got the information of the Su clan's various businesses and the person in charge of those businesses from him. "You two didn't sell me out, right?" Duan Ling Tian looked at Zhang Qian with a burning gaze and spoke in a manner that if Zhang Qian were to say yes, then he would drive both Zhang Qian and Zhao Gang out. "No." Zhang Qian hurriedly shook his head. The matter of the Su clan was not only related to Duan Ling Tian, but also to the lives and possessions of himself and his family, so he wouldn't dare to speak carelessly. "That's good." Duan Ling Tian nodded in satisfaction. Zhang Qian once again concealed himself in the shadows, and Duan Ling Tian instead walked towards the Divine Might Marquis estate. At the Divine Might Marquis estate's main gate, Duan Ling Tian noticed that the soldier on guard was a familiar face. It was precisely the young soldier that was slapped on the head by the older soldier the last time he came here. "Halt!" Right at this moment, another soldier stood out and blocked Duan Ling Tian's way. Slap. Under Duan Ling Tian's stupefied gaze, the young soldier who was slapped by the older soldier the other time gave this soldier that blocked Duan Ling Tian a slap on the head. Under the furious gaze of the soldier that was slapped on the head, the young soldier respectfully looked at Duan Ling Tian. "Young Master Ling Tian, please enter." Duan Ling Tian nodded and glanced deeply at the young soldier. This fellow, and that slap earlier, he couldn't have done it on purpose, right? As expected, the furious expression on that soldier that was slapped vanished instantly. He had a perturbed expression as he looked at the young soldier and asked, "Brother Ji, who is he?" "He's young Master Ling Tian, the Marquis's nephew." "Kid, look properly next time and don't be rash again." The young soldier acted like an elder as he spoke. As he spoke, he rubbed the back of his head with a lingering fear in his heart. "I've experienced it as well." Divine Might Marquis estate, within the audience hall. When Duan Ling Tian walked in, he noticed that Divine Might Marquis Nie Yuan was already waiting for him and couldn't help but ask, "Uncle Nie, is there anything you called me here for?" with a smile. "Little Tian, be honest with your Uncle Nie. Did you bring along Zhang Qian and Zhao Gong to kill the Su clan's Su Lai and Su Yong?" At the same time that Nie Yuan asked, his eyes stared fixedly at Duan Ling Tian, as if wanting so discern something from Duan Ling Tian's face. But unfortunately, he didn't discern anything. "Uncle Nie, if you don't have any proof, then don't make irresponsible remarks," Duan Ling Tian said in all seriousness. "You kid. Zhang Qian and Zhao Gang won't say a word. It's an order you gave, right? No wonder you said that you wanted absolute control when you asked for them from me. You had already planned everything at that time, right?" Nie Yuan said angrily. Even though Duan Ling Tian was unwilling to admit it, Nie Yuan knew that he'd guessed correctly. "Uncle Nie, all this is only your guess." Duan Ling Tian's face remained unfazed before saying, "Uncle Nie, if there isn't anything else, then I'll be leaving." "Wait." Nie Yuan stopped Duan Ling Tian before shaking his head with a laugh. "I didn't call you over to ask you that. Since Zhang Qian and Zhao Gang won't speak a word, I already guessed that even if you came, you wouldn't be honest." The reason I called you over this time is because I wanted to talk to you about the war at the northwest border. As he finished speaking, Nye Yuan's expression became serious. Northwest border? Duan Ling Tian couldn't help but recall that teacher Sima of his Star Mastermind department had once mentioned this to him. Uncle Nye, why are you speaking to me about this? There's naturally a reason why I'm speaking to you about this. This war in the northwest border is hard-pressed, and His Majesty has given me full authority to be responsible for dispatching reinforcements. A portion of these reinforcements will be mobilized from your Paladin Academy. If there's a student that's able to apply what he has learned, especially if the student is from your Star Mastermind Academy, then one person would be equivalent to an army on the battlefield. Nye Yuan glanced deeply at Duan Ling Tian. When I discussed with the Vice Dean Zhan of your Paladin Academy, he vigorously recommended you to me. Of course, he doesn't know of the relationship between you and me. He recommended me? Duan Ling Tian was dazed, but he was enlightened. After thinking about it, he figured that it must have been teacher Sima who recommended him to the Vice Dean. Right, he recommended you. How about it? Are you interested in going to experience it? At the time, these reinforcement troops will be led by your big brother Nye. Nye Yuan looked at Duan Ling Tian with an extremely complicated gaze. At the beginning, when that Vice Dean Zhan recommended Duan Ling Tian, he was skeptical. But later, when the Vice Dean Zhan mentioned the strategy of crossing the sea while deceiving the heavens that Duan Ling Tian thought of, it caused him to be overwhelmed. Never had he imagined that this nephew of this, whose natural talent in the martial Tao and natural talent in alchemy were heaven-defying, had such a terrifying natural talent in the art of strategy. Of course I'm interested. Duan Ling Tian hurriedly nodded. Uncle Nye, when are the reinforcements heading to the northwest border? In a month. If you want to go, then prepare properly during this time, Nye Yuan said. Okay. Duan Ling Tian nodded before bidding his farewell and leaving. On the way home, Duan Ling Tian couldn't help but be slightly excited. The battlefields of this lifetime were completely different from the battlefields of his previous lifetime. He had taken part in some of the battlefields in his previous lifetime, but that was practically only contending with firearms and was far from the hot-bloodedness of the battlefield of this lifetime that used cold arms. 2. Within Duan Ling Tian's heart, there had always been a dream. He hoped that one day, he would be able to gallop his horse to kill his enemies on the battlefield like how it was done in the ancient times of his previous world and battle until the last moment, fully venting the hot blood within his entire body. Now he had finally obtained the opportunity. There was a trace of an excited smile on Duan Ling Tian's face even after he got home. Ku Er blinked her beautiful eyes that were filled with curiosity as she asked, "Young master, what are you so happy about?" Li Fei looked over as well. She could clearly feel Duan Ling Tian's currently elated mood. It's nothing. It's just that next month I plan to head to the battlefield to take a look. Duan Ling Tian shook his head and smiled as he casually spoke. Unexpectedly, however, Ku Er's and Li Fei's beautiful faces both went pale when Duan Ling Tian finished speaking. Battlefield? As far as they knew, the battlefield was an extremely dangerous place, and once one went there, one might never return. Young master, can you not go? Ku Er had a delicate and touching expression with eyes that welled up with tears, as he didn't want Duan Ling Tian to take a risk. Scoundrel, if you want to go, then I want to go with you. Li Fei had an unyielding expression. She spoke in a manner that showed that if Duan Ling Tian didn't bring her along, she wouldn't let Duan Ling Tian go. Duan Ling Tian felt his headache. What are you two thinking? I'm just going as reinforcements. Moreover, it isn't the type of reinforcements that enters the battlefield. I'll be the type of mastermind that remains within the camp and provides advice and suggestions to the men on the battlefield, understand? Moreover, this is the rule of Paladin Academy. If one doesn't enter the battlefield, then one isn't allowed to graduate. As Duan Ling Tian finished speaking, even he himself felt his face get hot. If he were to enter the battlefield, would he obediently remain within the camp? The answer was a definite no. It's Paladin Academy's rule? Li Fei's expression eased up slightly, as she knew that Duan Ling Tian chose the Star Mastermind Department in Paladin Academy, and she also knew the difference between the Star Mastermind Department and the Star General Department. Yes, Duan Ling Tian brazenly said. Eventually, Duan Ling Tian spent quite some time before finally being able to appease the two girls. And if he could choose, he would rather battle a first-level nascent soul martial artist. Of course, he would kill his opponent with the bone corrosion inscription. Subsequently, Duan Ling Tian got his mother's spatial ring from her and helped her inscribe a bone corrosion inscription as well. Only after doing so did he settle down and cultivate. His target was to break through to the 7th level of the core formation stage within the month. The next day, Duan Ling Tian had only just entered the classroom when he heard the intense discussion of the students within his class. Their discussions were precisely related to the matter of the reinforcements for the northwest border a month from now. Xiao Yu and Xiao Sun gathered beside Duan Ling Tian, and Xiao Sun said, Duan Ling Tian, I heard that over 300 students of our Paladin Academy will reinforce the army 1 month from now at the northwest border's battlefield. I've heard of it. Duan Ling Tian nodded. Allegedly, among these 300-plus students, 300 are from the Star General Department, and our Star General Department will probably only send not more than 10 people. Xiao Yu's tone contained an obvious disappointment. This isn't unusual. Duan Ling Tian shook his head and smiled. The Star Mastermind Department students aren't born for the battlefield. They serve more in the domestic affairs of the Crimson Sky Kingdom, just like those civil service officers of the kingdom's government and the county governors of the 18 counties. They're basically all from the Star Mastermind Department, and some of the officials under them are from the Star Mastermind Department as well. Xiao Sun had a bitter smile on his face. I wish for nothing more than to change places with Tian, who right now, although the Grade 1 students of the Star General Department don't have any placing quota to enter the reinforcements, in another 2 years, I would at least have the chance to enter the battlefield. Within the Star Mastermind Department, I might not have the chance to enter the battlefield and take a look even after I graduate. The battlefield is brutal. Moreover, the environment is very bad. It's not comparable to the extravagant life you have at the Shao clan. If you were to go, you might not be accustomed to it. Duan Ling Tian shook his head. He was clear about Xiao Sun's mentality, and it was nothing more than curiosity. It isn't bad to have an experience, Xiao Sun said. Xiao Yu nodded in deep agreement. Duan Ling Tian noticed their gazes of anticipations and said, with a light smile, if you two really want to go, I can get 2 places for you. You? Xiao Sun and Xiao Yu both had doubts on their faces as they gazed at Duan Ling Tian, and Xiao Sun said, Duan Ling Tian, you have teacher Sima's vigorous recommendation, and thus you might be able to obtain a place. But you said you can get 2 places for us. That's a bit too much of a boast. Unless you know the general that's leading the army this time, or you know the divine might marquis. What? You two don't believe me? Duan Ling Tian started laughing. Xiao Sun had really hit the spot this time. He not only knew the general that was leading the army this time, but at the same time he also knew of the divine might marquis. To Duan Ling Tian, 2 places was only a matter of saying a single sentence. Xiao Yu's gaze focused as he said, in surprise, Duan Ling Tian, do you really have a way to get spots for us? You've known me for so long. Have I ever lied to you? Duan Ling Tian was slightly speechless. Even this fellow, Xiao Yu, doubted him. The 2 of you prepare properly this month. In a month, depart with me. Although Xiao Yu and Xiao Sun didn't know why Duan Ling Tian had such confidence, they realized that Duan Ling Tian wasn't joking, and their eyes shone. Right, when we're having lunch, don't mention this matter. I'm worried Tian who would want to follow me as well. It's fine that you two are following since you're both Star Mastermind students and don't have to personally enter the battlefield. But Tian who is different, Duan Ling Tian said, with a serious expression. If the current Tian who were to enter the battlefield, he would only have a slim chance of survival, and as a friend, he didn't want Tian who to take the risk. Don't worry, we know what to do. That kid Tian who, even if you don't help him get a place, he will still have a chance to enter the battlefield in a year or 2. Xiao Sun laughed. Before long, Sima Changfeng arrived. The class for the entire morning passed extremely quickly. When it was nearly noon, Sima Changfeng called Duan Ling Tian over. Duan Ling Tian, the Northwest Border's battlefield reinforcement order had been passed down. I've already recommended you to the Vice Dean. The Star Mastermind Department's roster will be released half a month from now. You'll depart a month from now, so you prepare properly. Duan Ling Tian lightly nodded with a carefree expression. Looking at Duan Ling Tian's composed expression caused Sima Changfeng to be secretly surprised. This kid is indeed a genius of great potential. He's going to enter the battlefield, yet he's actually so calm. However, if Sima Changfeng knew that Duan Ling Tian had received the news beforehand, it was a mystery as to how his expression would be. At noon, when they were eating at the cafeteria, Tian, who had a complacent and excited expression, I heard that the roster for the Star General Department's reinforcements for this time's Northwest Border Battlefield has been released, and many of the students are Grade 2 students of the Star General Department. Looks like I'll have an opportunity next year. As long as you work hard and cultivate, you'll naturally have an opportunity, Duan Ling Tian said, with a smile. Heh, Duan Ling Tian, you all don't have to be envious of me, really. Although your Star Mastermind Department students have a 90% plus chance that they won't have a chance to enter the battlefield until graduation, there's still a thread of hope. Moreover, it doesn't matter if you're unable to enter the battlefield, as killing isn't suited to you all. Tian, who seemed as if he was consoling Duan Ling Tian's group of three, but his tone, however, obviously contained a trace of complacency. Yes, you're right, Duan Ling Tian said in all seriousness as he forcefully held back his laughter. Ha 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 ha. Xiao Yu and Xiao Sun couldn't hold back and laughed loudly. What are you all laughing about? Tian, who had a stunned expression. Nothing. Xiao Yu and Xiao Sun shook their heads. No matter how Tian, who questioned, they wouldn't speak a word. They were confident that Tian, who would find out about the truth in 1 month. After finishing their meal, Duan Ling Tian once again cultivated atop the large tree at the side of the martial arts practice grounds for the entire afternoon before leaving Paladin Academy with Xiao Sun and Xiao Yu. After parting their ways, Duan Ling Tian directly went home. At a far-off corner of the inner city, not far away, a middle-aged man was slowly walking before a remote building, and if one were to look closely, one would notice that his legs were currently shivering. Damn it, I'm not doing this job anymore. Although I only have to talk, that fellow behind the counter is too terrifying. He only spoke 2 sentences and I nearly wet my pants from fear. As he muttered, the middle-aged man grit his teeth and eventually walked into the building. Within the spacious lobby, there was only one person standing behind the counter. I've come to confirm the assignment, that Duan Ling Tian. The middle-aged man took a deep breath and didn't dare look at the young man behind the counter. The young man behind the counter frowned when he saw the middle-aged man's terrified appearance, and he indifferently said, "We aren't accepting this assignment." What? Not accepting? The middle-aged man was struck dumb. Never had he imagined there would be such a result, and for a moment he seemed to forget to be afraid. He freaked out and said, "Isn't this the Ghastly Shadow organization? Isn't Ghastly Shadow the most famous assassin organization within the Crimson Sky Kingdom? You can't even take care of a youth?" Slap. The young man's frosty gaze was like a saber as it swept past the middle-aged man. He raised his hand and dropped a stack of silver on the counter. "This is the deposit. It is being returned." You all. The middle-aged man seemed to suddenly gain courage out of nowhere and seemed to want to say something. K off. The young man's eyes narrowed slightly, and an icy cold killing intent swept out from him. In the instant that the middle-aged man was enveloped in the killing intent, his body trembled and he was terrified to the point that he wet his pants. "I asked you to K off. Didn't you hear me?" The young man's voice briefly contained a slight impatience. I can't move." The middle-aged man laughed bitterly. You actually dared to dirty my Ghastly Shadow's point of operations?" The young man smelled a pungent stench of urine. His face went gloomy before extending his hand to take back all the silver on the counter. "You can consider this silver the cleaning fee? If the person behind you has an objection, you can ask him to personally to come see me. Now, I'll give you the time of 3 breaths to vanish. Otherwise, leave your life here." The young man's voice became even colder. The middle-aged man's face went ghastly pale and his legs trembled. His entire body seemed to transform into a gust of wind as he rushed out of the ghastly Shadow's point of operations in an extremely sorry state. 200,000 silver. 200,000 silver gone just like that? After leaving, the middle-aged man seemed to have finally reacted to the 200,000 that seemed to have been confiscated. A gust of wind blew by, and the middle-aged man felt everywhere below the belt to be chilly, but it was even more icy cold within his heart. 200,000 silver was gone just like that. How would he return and explain it? As he glanced at his damp pants, he really wished to cut of that thing under his belt, but after a moment of thought, he didn't have the courage after all. Within a spacious courtyard house in the imperial city's inner city. Trash, kneel down. A middle-aged man with a stiff face kicked his leg out like a bolt of lightning, kicking the middle-aged man with drenched pants down to the floor. He knelt there on the ground and shivered with his head lowered. He didn't dare to look at that big and tall figure before him. Second Master, it's I who didn't handle this matter well. I'll replace the 200,000 silver this trash lost, the middle-aged man with a stiff face respectfully said to the big and tall figure. 200,000 silver is a small matter. The big and tall figure walked out from the shadows, and under the moonlight, a slightly dignified face was briefly revealed. This was another middle-aged man, and a dignified appearance of a person in a high position was emitted from between his brows. That ghastly shadow wasn't willing to accept the assignment on that little bastard? The dignified middle-aged man looked at the middle-aged man who knelt on the floor. He couldn't help but frown, as he could vaguely smell the pungent stench of urine. Yes, Second Master. The middle-aged man who knelt on the floor hurriedly nodded and his body shivered. The dignified middle-aged man glanced at the middle-aged man with the stiff face and said, with an incomparably calm voice, "Make it clean." Second Master, spare me. Second Master, spare. The face of the middle-aged man who knelt on the ground went ghastly pale, but he didn't even finish speaking before his skull was shattered with a slap of the middle-aged man beside him. Dead. Second Master, even Ghastly Shadow isn't willing to accept the assignment on Duanling Tian. Does he have? The middle-aged man with the stiff face was slightly hesitant. Humph. I'm extremely clear of his background. Since Ghastly Shadow won't accept it, go find someone else to deal with him. The middle-aged man with a dignified expression raised his hand, and a huge stack of silver dropped onto the ground. This is 30 million silver. You take care of this matter cleanly. I don't wish the others from the clan to find out. 30 million silver? The pupils of the middle-aged man with the stiff face constricted, as he never imagined that the man before him would be willing to pay such a huge amount of wealth for a mere 18-year-old youth. Yes, Second Master. The middle-aged man with a stiff face put away the silver before picking up the corpse beside him and quickly leaving the courtyard house. In next to no time, only the middle-aged man with the dignified expression remained within the courtyard house, and an icy cold voice echoed out from within his mouth, filling the entire courtyard house. Duanling Tian, you killed my son, so I'll make you die a graveless death. Early in the morning, as the first light of the morning sun descended onto the ground, bits of sunlight shone through the window to descend onto the youth who sat cross-legged on his bed. Huff! After a long time, the youth took a deep breath and his gaze focused. With my current progress, I should be able to break through to the 7th level of the core formation stage before departing. After putting on his violet clothes, the youth left home after eating breakfast. As he passed by the side of the martial arts practice ground after entering Paladin Academy, many students could be seen cultivating martial skills and sparring within the martial arts practice grounds. These people are all students from the Star General Department. Duanling Tian's gaze slightly focused. It looked like the reinforcement army going out to battle 1 month from now had aroused the spirits of these Star General Department students. Suddenly, 3 young men walked over towards him from afar. A smile appeared on the corners of Duanling Tian's mouth, as there was a familiar face amongst the 3 people before his eyes, and it was precisely Duanrong, the cousin of Duanling Xing. Ever since Duanling Xing died, Duanling Tian hadn't once seen Duanrong again, but never had he expected that he would encounter him here. Duanrong lowered his head when he noticed Duanling Tian. He had the intention to avoid him. Duan Rong, what are you afraid of? The tall young man beside Duan Long looked at the violet-clothed youth that was afar, and his sword-shaped eyebrows knitted, seeming to be slightly puzzled. Big brother Su Qing. He's Duan Ling Tian. The other person laughed bitterly. He's Duan Ling Tian? The gaze of the young man called Su Qing focused and a bright light flashed within, and he raised his hand to place it onto Duan Rong's shoulder. Duan Rong, you're someone who came from my myriad link county. Could it be that you think he can still bully you with me here? Duan Rong shuddered as he returned to his senses. Yeah, how could he have forgotten? The young man beside him was the son of the myriad link county's county governor, the county governor's estate's young master. Before Duan Ling Tian's appearance, he was even publicly acknowledged as the student with the highest natural talent in the martial Dao within Paladin Academy after Duan Rufeng. Duan Ling Tian stood in the distance, and when he noticed that Duan Rong seemed like a mouse noticing a cat when he saw him, Duan Ling Tian didn't plan on making fun of Duan Rong. But suddenly, he noticed that Duan Rong seemed to have regained his spirits and was even walking over towards Duan Ling Tian with the two other young men beside him with a great, imposing manner. It caused Duan Ling Tian to be stunned. There isn't something wrong with this Duan Rong's head, right? Could it be that he wants to come get a beating again? You're Duan Ling Tian? Duan Ling Tian noticed that the tall young man beside Duan Rong was looking at him with a hostile gaze, and his tone was mixed with a trace of coldness. This tall young man had a handsome appearance and extraordinary disposition. Duan Ling Tian was able to discern that he came from an extraordinary background with just a glance. Yes. Duan Ling Tian's brows raised. Could it be that this person wanted to come forward for Duan Rong? I'm Su Qing. Su Qing stared fixedly at Duan Ling Tian, and a trace of hostility abruptly arose within his eyes. Before the violet-clothed youth before him killed Duan Ling Xing and spread his name throughout Paladin Academy, he was the publicly acknowledged #1 genius within Paladin Academy. But since then, this halo had been taken away by the violet-clothed youth before him. This caused him, who was proud and arrogant, to find it slightly difficult to accept. Su Qing. Duan Ling Tian thought inwardly when he heard what the young man said. This name wasn't unfamiliar to him. He still remembered that day when he had just arrived at the Imperial City. He once heard others discuss this person within that restaurant in the outer city. They even said that this person followed after that deadbeat father of his to become the martial Dao genius with the highest natural talent within Paladin Academy in the last 20+ years. Later on, after he entered Paladin Academy, he still often heard others mention this Su Qing. Su Qing, a grade 2 student of the Paladin Academy's Star General Department, possessed a cultivation at the 9th level of the core formation stage, and he even possessed a grade 7 spirit weapon. Among the students below the origin core stage within Paladin Academy, no one was a match for him. What? You want to come forward for Duan Rong? Duan Ling Tian's gaze focused as he looked at Su Qing calmly. So what if I am? A cold smile appeared on the corners of Su Qing's mouth, and a cold light flashed within his eyes. Meanwhile, the face-off Duan Ling Tian and Su Qing had attracted many students. As this was a side of the martial arts practice grounds, the group of students present within the martial arts practice ground had gathered over before long. Duan Ling Tian. A robust figure walked out from within the crowd and stood beside Duan Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian looked at Tian Hu and was slightly surprised before lightly smiling and saying, Tian Hu, you're actually here as well. Duan Ling Tian, how'd you get into conflict with this Su Qing? Tian Hu frowned and looked at Su Qing with a slightly fearful gaze. I didn't have any intention of coming into conflict with him. However, he himself came and blocked my path. He even said he wanted to come forward for Duan Rong. Duan Ling Tian shrugged with an innocent expression. You again. Tian Hu's gaze went slightly cold as he looked at Duan Rong and said, in a cold voice, Duan Rong, if you're a man, then don't rely on others. What are you staring at? If you have the balls, then come fight me. Duan Rong's face turned deathly pale, but he didn't dare accept the challenge, as he had experienced this Tian Hu's strength, and it was far from what he could compare to. Forget it. When a dog bites you, could it be that you want to bite it in return? Duan Ling Tian shook his head and looked at Tian Hu with a smile. It's almost time, so you should go to class. Otherwise, be careful, or that Niumeng might punish you." As he spoke, Duanling Tian brought Tianhu and walked off shoulder to shoulder, intentionally walking around Su Qing's group of 3. "Duanling Tian, you and I are both at the 9th level of the core formation stage, and you and I both have grade 7 spirit weapons. Do you dare to battle me?" Noticing so many people spectating, Su Qing's gaze focused. He intended to demonstrate his strength to reclaim the halo of number 1 genius within Paladin Academy. One must know one's limitations. Duanling Tian paid no attention to Su Qing and indifferently left behind this sentence before continuing forward with Tianhu. "Awesome. This Duanling Tian is really something. This Su Qing is the former number 1 genius of our Paladin Academy, but Duanling Tian actually paid no attention when faced with his challenge. He even told Su Qing that he should know his own limitations." The spectating group of students was in a complete uproar. Su Qing's face was livid, his body was quivering, and his handsome face was currently replaces with a savage expression. Su Qing was from the Myriad Link County's county governor's estate and was the son of the county governor. Since a young age, he grew up with a golden spoon in his mouth, and when he started cultivating, he even revealed a monstrous natural talent. He was even being called the number 1 genius within the last 100 years of the Myriad Link County. After that, he passed the entrance exam that Paladin Academy established in the Myriad Link County and smoothly entered Paladin Academy. In Paladin Academy, he was still outstanding. He was publicly acknowledged as the number 1 genius within Paladin Academy. Among the Paladin Academy students, only one person from 20+ years ago was able to surpass him, and that person was Duanru Feng. Duanru Feng, the former peerless genius whose name spread throughout the entire Crimson Sky Kingdom, wasn't of the same generation as him. Currently, Duanru Feng had even vanished for many years, and thus he didn't feel anything when his limelight was outshone by Duanru Feng. But when Duanling Tian appeared with the identity of the son of Duanru Feng, revealed that his cultivation was at the 9th level of the core formation stage at the age of 18, and killed Duanling Xing, who was a 9th level core formation martial artist as well, Duanling Tian's name was spread throughout Paladin Academy and even the Imperial City. His halo seemed to have been taken away in a single night. Since then, hostility towards Duanling Tian arose within his heart. "Since the heavens brought me into this world, then why did the heavens give life to Duanling Tian?" He originally only had hostility within his heart, but today, when he personally met Duanling Tian, he noticed that he really desired to defeat Duanling Tian and prove himself to everyone. He, Su Qing, was still the number 1 genius in Paladin Academy, a legend that was difficult for all the Paladin Academy students to surpass. But now, when he initiated a challenge, that Duanling Tian actually regarded it was not worthy of consideration. This caused his heart to be completely filled with rage. "Duanling Tian, UPU***Y. Su Qing's face was gloomy, and he sneered as he looked at Duanling Tian's figure disappearing off into the distance. Duanling Tian, who was walking shoulder to shoulder with Tianhu, heard what Su Qing said, and he stopped his footsteps for a moment before shaking his head with a smile and continuing forward. "If you think that roaring like this can suppress the inferiority within your heart, then feel free to roar. It's not that I don't dare to battle you, but I disdain to. You should think it over yourself." Duanling Tian's voice echoed out from afar and entered Su Qing's ears. They seemed like pins piercing him. "Duanling Tian." Su Qing couldn't bear it any longer and completely erupted. Accompanied by Su Qing's explosive shout, origin energy increased explosively on his legs, and his entire body seemed to transform into a cannonball as he charged towards Duanling Tian. 12 ancient mammoth silhouettes appeared above him. Whoosh! Su Qing's speed was extremely swift. It was as if he'd transformed into a cheetah and moved swift like the wind. Oem! Su Qing raised his hand. Within it, a completely black, 3-foot-long blade appeared out of thin air, and a black sword light tore through the sky as it flew towards Duanling Tian. Above Su Qing, another 3 ancient mammoth silhouettes instantly condensed into form. Relying on the amplification of his spirit weapon, Su Qing's attack was comparable to the strength of 15 ancient mammoths. Ninth level of the core formation stage. Grade 7 spirit weapon. As expected, Su Qing attracted the gazes of all the Paladin Academy students present the moment he attacked, and a trace of excitement and anticipation appeared within their gazes. They were all extremely curious as to whether Su Qing was capable of defeating Duanling Tian. The sword within Su Qing's hand flashed out, and at the instant that he dashed towards Duanling Tian, a fierce and furious brilliance flickered within his eyes. This Duanling Tian actually said that he disdained to battle him. If it was an older origin core martial artist that said it, he wouldn't feel anything. But the person that said this was only a 9th level core formation martial artist, and moreover, an 18-year-old youth. Most importantly, this youth was the target of comparison within his heart, the target he desired to repress. Whoosh! The whistling sound of a sword that echoed out from behind him caused Duanling Tian's face to turn grim, and he exerted force with his hand to push Tianhu away before moving aside himself. Meanwhile, Su Qing's sword strike whistled and flashed over, exactly flashing past where Duanling Tian was earlier and practically brushing the clothes on Duanling Tian's body as it passed. Su Qing, despicable. Tian, who was in a slightly sorry state, and he stared angrily at Su Qing with an extremely unsightly expression. However, Su Qing paid no attention to Tian, who and instead looked at the nearby Duanling Tian as he spoke with a voice as cold as ice. Duanling Tian, you said earlier that you disdain to fight me? Now I want to see what you, Duanling Tian, rely on to boast like that. Duanling Tian's face sank, as he didn't expect that this Su Qing would be so overbearing, and a flame of fury was lit ablaze within his heart. A flame that was difficult to restrain. Meanwhile, the students that stood afar had followed over and were looking at this scene from afar. Their gazes all descended onto the two figures that were in confrontation. One was a 20-plus-year-old young man. One was an 18-year-old youth. The young man was Su Qing, the famous genius student within Paladin Academy, the form number 1 genius and publicly acknowledged number 1 below the origin core stage in Paladin Academy. The youth was Duanling Tian, a famous genius student within Paladin Academy as well, and when he just entered Paladin Academy, he didn't attract any public attention until after he took part in a life and death battle with another 9th level core formation student, revealed a cultivation at the 9th level of the core formation stage, and killed his opponent by relying upon a grade 7 spirit weapon. Only then did his name spread throughout the entire Paladin Academy. Since then, the halo of number 1 genius within Paladin Academy moved from its place above Su Qing's head to rest upon this youth's head. And today, the former number 1 genius and the present number 1 genius had confronted each other. What sort of sparks would their clash bring about? At this moment, everyone held their breaths and watched the scene before them in anticipation. They were convinced that following this would be a brilliant struggle between two evenly matched opponents. Being able to watch the battle between Duanling Tian and Su Qing with my own 2 eyes, even if I'm punished for being late, it's still worth it. Exactly. The former number 1 genius against the current number 1 genius. This is something that's hard to come by. The gazes of the surrounding students shone brightly and their faces were filled with excitement. Duan Rong was standing in the crowd, and a sneer appeared on the corners of his mouth as his icy cold gaze descended onto the violet-clothed youth. Duanling Tian, let's see how you end today. Actually fighting with big brother Su Qing. You're courting death. As a member of Myriad Link County's Duan clan, Duan Rong knew deeply of how terrifying the county governor's son, Su Qing, was, and he didn't think Duanling Tian would be a match for Su Qing. Su Qing, if you don't want to lose face, then hurry up and leave. Duanling Tian's gaze focused as he looked at Su Qing with a calm expression and seemed to be carefree. If you don't want to lose face, then hurry up and leave. When Duanling Tian finished speaking, not only did Su Qing's face turn gloomy, even the group of students that were spectating looked at Su Qing with strange gazes. If Su Qing were to leave now, it would undoubtedly be even more shameful. Duanling Tian, everyone can boast. If you're a man, then fight me and prove to everyone that you indeed have the strength to disdain fighting me. Su Qing had a burning gaze as he looked at Duanling Tian, and origin energy flashed on the pitch-black grade 7 spirit sword in his hand. Duan Ling Tian eyes flashed with a cold light, and the corners of his mouth curled into a sneer. Since you're bent on having your way and are unafraid of losing face, then I'll grant your wish. Duan Ling Tian was clear in his heart. If he were to not prove himself, then Su Qing would surely run his mouth endlessly. Since it had come to this, he had to completely destroy this Su Qing's confidence and make him retreat after learning of the difficulties. I'll wait and see. Su Qing snorted coldly with an arrogant expression. Then take this punch of mine. Duan Ling Tian's voice exploded like thunder. Instantly, Duan Ling Tian moved. Spirit Serpent Movement Technique. Duan Ling Tian's moved as if his entire body had transformed into a spirit serpent. His speed was swift like a bolt of lightning. Above Duan Ling Tian, 12 ancient mammoth silhouettes condensed into form. Su Qing moved right after him. As if transforming into a gust of wind, the pitch-black, 3-foot-long blade within his hand flashed out, and sword silhouettes flashed out, as if transforming into a myriad of sword silhouettes. It was obviously an extremely profound sword skill. At the same time, 15 ancient mammoth silhouettes condensed into form above Su Qing. The moment Su Qing attacked, he exploded forth with his entire strength and even combined the might of his spirit weapon when he exerted his strength. That's all you've got? If it was the former Duan Ling Tian, he might have been slightly fearful when faced with Su Qing's sword strike. But the current Duan Ling Tian, Spirit Serpent Movement Technique, Duan Ling Tian's body flashed, and the speed below his feet instantly rose a few levels before he instantly avoided Su Qing's sword strike. Whoosh! Su Qing chased. However, he quickly noticed that he was utterly incapable of catching up to Duan Ling Tian, as Duan Ling Tian's speed was impossible to keep up with. How is this possible? How can he possibly be so fast? When he noticed that another 4 ancient mammoth silhouettes had appeared above Duan Ling Tian, a luster of disbelief was emitted from his eyes. The strength of 16 ancient mammoths. Oh my God, the strength of 16 ancient mammoths. Duan Ling Tian didn't use his spirit weapon to attack and is only avoiding Su Qing with his movement technique. In other words, without relying upon a spirit weapon and only drawing upon the energy of heaven and earth, Duan Ling Tian is able to develop 16 ancient mammoth silhouettes. Looks like this Duan Ling Tian has already broken through to the Origin Core stage. Only an Origin Core martial artist is able to possess such terrifying strength without using a spirit weapon. The first level of the Origin Core stage possesses a strength of 20 ancient mammoths. Duan Ling Tian is obviously holding back now. The spectating group of students were dumbstruck for a moment before gasping with astonishment. Most of the people had faces full of disbelief. An 18-year-old Origin Core martial artist? Holy! What sort of monster is this? Duan Rong was dumbstruck as well when he saw the scene before him. No, it's impossible. How could this little bastard be an Origin Core martial artist? Whoosh! Duan Ling Tian's gaze went slightly cold as his body flashed before directly arriving behind Su Qing. His right arm shook and struck out with a simple punch. Bang! The strength of 16 ancient mammoths exploded forth, smashing the defensive chi barrier on the surface of Su Qing's body before blasting Su Qing away. Bang! Su Qing fiercely crashed onto the ground, and his body trembled as he continuously spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. Duan Ling Tian's gaze was calm as he indifferently swept Su Qing with his gaze and slowly spoke. Now, what do you think? Do I, Duan Ling Tian, have the strength to disdain to fight you? However, at this moment, Su Qing seemed to have not heard what Duan Ling Tian said. He had an agitated expression and his eyes dimmed. Obviously, he had received a huge blow to his confidence. Humph! Duan Ling Tian coldly swept Su Qing with his gaze before calling Tian Hu and directly walking towards his classroom. Most of the students that were present watched as Duan Ling Tian left, and their eyes emitted astonishment and admiration. An 18-year-old Origin Core martial artist. This youth's natural talent had already completely surpassed his father's. Even during those years, Duan Rufeng only broke through to the Origin Core stage at the age of 20. How could they know that Duan Ling Tian's cultivation was currently quite far off from the origin core stage, and the only reason he was capable of exerting such a terrifying force was because of the supreme cultivation method, the Nine Dragons War Sovereign technique, that he cultivated? Su Qing possessed the strength of 15 ancient mammoths when relying upon his grade 7 spirit sword to execute attacks. But before the strength of 16 ancient mammoths that this Duan Ling Tian exerted empty-handedly, he couldn't even withstand a single blow. What you're saying is utter rubbish. The grade 7 spirit sword only amplifies the strength of attacks, but Su Qing's speed was only propelled by the strength of 12 ancient mammoths. Duan Ling Tian, on the hand, had a speed that was propelled by the strength of 16 ancient mammoths, and thus was completely not on the same level. The difference between the 9th level of the core formation stage and the 1st level of the origin core stage is too huge. And this is when Duan Ling Tian hadn't ever exerted his entire strength. Yeah, if he had exerted his full strength, Su Qing wouldn't even have the chance to swing his sword. The group of students discussed animatedly. Moreover, all their words, when heard by Su Qing, were like pins pricking him, causing him to be nearly numbed. An 18-year-old origin core martial artist, Su Qing suddenly felt that all these years of his life were wasted and he was still useless, and his dimmed eyes flickered with the gloominess of defeat. Meanwhile, Duan Ling Tian and Tian, who walked on the path towards the classroom, and Tian, who had a face full of extreme surprise. F***K. Duan Ling Tian, when did you step into the origin core stage? Tian, who seemed unconcerned, but he was slightly bitter in his heart. When he met Duan Ling Tian for the first time within the Iron Blood Army's Genius Camp that day, Duan Ling Tian was similarly a 4th-level core formation martial artist like him. But now he had only just broken through to the 7th level of the core formation stage 2 days ago, and had originally thought that he could slowly catch up to Duan Ling Tian's footsteps, but he shockingly noticed that Duan Ling Tian had already broken through to the origin core stage. He felt a wave of powerlessness. Maybe I shouldn't compare myself to this freak. I'm practically just frustrating myself. Tian, who sighed inwardly. Duan Ling Tian only lightly smiled in reply to Tian, whose question. In the eyes of a bystander, his strength was indeed something only an origin core martial artist was able to exert, and on this topic he didn't explain any further. After all, this was related to the cultivation method he cultivated, the Nine Dragons War Sovereign technique. That was his greatest secret. If it were to be leaked, he would surely encounter complete annihilation. Duan Ling Tian currently had only cultivated the Nine Dragons War Sovereign technique's 2nd form, the Raging Python form, and he could already feel how heaven-defying this cultivation method was. He could imagine that if the Nine Dragon War Sovereign technique were to be revealed to the public, even those true Void stage powerhouses would probably have their interest aroused. Before long, Duan Ling Tian and Tian, who parted ways, directly heading towards their respective classrooms. Within the classroom, the other 17 students had taken their seats, and only Duan Ling Tian was left. Teacher. Duan Ling Tian arrived at the classroom door and smiled apologetically to Sima Changfeng. Sima Changfeng didn't say anything, and he nodded. Come in. Only now did Duan Ling Tian enter the classroom and take his seat. Xiao Sun sat behind Duan Ling Tian and moved his head closer as he asked, with a mischievous smile, Duan Ling Tian, although you used to arrive late as well, you've never been late for class. Be truthful about it. Did you do something bad last night and couldn't wake up this morning? Duan Ling Tian rolled his eyes at Xiao Sun as he angrily said, Is that all you have in your brain? Before long, the entire morning passed. At noon after class ended, Duan Ling Tian, Xiao Yu, and Xiao Sun walked towards the cafeteria, and everywhere they passed, many students seemed to be saluting them with their gazes. Xiao Sun looked at Duan Ling Tian and Xiao Yu as he asked, Is there something on our faces? There's nothing on yours, nor Duan Ling Tian's face. How about mine? Xiao Yu felt it to be strange as well. Why were these people looking at them like this? Xiao Sun glanced at Xiao Yu and said, in all seriousness, there's nothing on yours either. Among the three of them, perhaps only Duan Ling Tian was still able to maintain his composure, as he knew the reason. That's Duan Ling Tian. the grade 1 student that stepped into the origin core stage at the mere age of 18. F***K. It can't be? A grade 1 student at the origin core stage? Just at this moment, two nearby students stopped to stand and look at Duanling Tian as they whispered in discussion. Due to the nearby distance, their voices were heard by Xiao Yu and Xiao Sun, and the two of them finally reacted. So it turned out that all those gazes of salute all this time were not because there was something on their faces. Those people were all gazing at Duanling Tian. Duanling Tian, you broke through to the origin core stage? Xiao Sun and Xiao Yu had faces full of astonishment, and their eyes emitted a gleam of disbelief. This was really too much. Duanling Tian lightly smiled and maintained his silence. F***K. You can't have really broken through to the origin core stage, right? Besides that, why do all these people know that you've broken through to the origin core stage, but we don't? Could it be that you came late to class this morning because you did something? Xiao Sun swore as he asked a string of questions. Even though Xiao Yu didn't speak, his eyes still stared fixedly at Duanling Tian. When you guys see Tian Hu in a while, ask him yourselves. Duanling Tian shrugged and was slightly helpless. Within the cafeteria, Duanling Tian's group of three had only just sat when Tian Hu arrived. Xiao Yu and Xiao Sun naturally were bound to ask him questions, and before long, under a narration with an assortment of voices and countenance of Tian Hu, Xiao Yu and Xiao Sun finally knew of the cause and effect of the entire matter. Never had they imagined that Duanling Tian being late to class today was actually because of Su Qing. Su Qing, they naturally knew who that was. A grade 2 student of Paladin Academy, and the publicly acknowledged #1 genius within Paladin Academy before Duanling Tian's appearance. Duanling Tian, not only did you take away the title of #1 genius from that Su Qing, but you even made him suffer a crushing defeat in public. He's bound to be inferior to you at every corner within Paladin Academy in the future. Xiao Sun shook his head. He was slightly shocked within his heart, as he'd never imagined that this Duanling Tian was formidable before he was able to destroy Su Qing. Of course, he was even more shocked about Duanling Tian's cultivation, stepping into the origin core stage at the mere age of 18. Just thinking about it caused his scalp to go numb. Duanling Tian shook his head and smiled indifferently. I gave him a chance at that time, and it was he who was overbearing. Serves him right. Tian, who had a face full of pleasure due to Su Qing's misfortune. Xiao Yu gazed at Duanling Tian with a complicated gaze, and unknowingly, a trace of a bitter smile appeared on the corners of his mouth. Presently, he was only a step away from the 7th level of the core formation stage, but Duanling Tian had already stepped into the origin core stage. Although he'd long since had no intention of comparing himself to Duanling Tian, he still felt slightly upset in his heart. Right. Suddenly, Tian, who seemed to have thought of something as he looked at Duanling Tian with a slightly serious expression. Duanling Tian, I heard that Su Qing's background isn't simple. He is the Myriad Link County's county governor's son. County governor's son? Duanling Tian's brows knitted, and as he recalled the scene from this morning, he came to a sudden understanding. This morning, there was originally no sword within Su Qing's hand, but later he obviously withdrew it from a spatial ring. At that time, Duanling Tian was still slightly surprised that Su Qing actually had a spatial ring. Moreover, that sword of his was a grade 7 spirit weapon. Now that he knew of Su Qing's identity, he finally understood. The county governor's son? Duanling Tian's eyes narrowed. There were only a total of 18 counties within the Crimson Sky Kingdom. Moreover, he first severed the arm of the Swallow Mountain County's county governor's son, Pei San. Following which, he beat the daughter of the Fair Sun County's county governor into a pig's head twice in succession. Now he had offended the Myriad Link County's county governor's son, Su Qing. Within the 18 counties, he had already directly or indirectly offended 3 of them. Under the slightly worried gazes of Xiao Yu and the others, Duanling Tian smiled indifferently. What are you all doing? Don't forget that I've already offended a county governor since a long time ago. The Fair Sun County's county governor's daughter, Tongli, hates me to her bones. Moreover, she's even the cousin of the 5th prince. Compared to that, This Su Qing doesn't amount to much. Only now did Xiao Yu and the others recall that this fellow was one that stirred up a lot of trouble, and they all laughed bitterly. In fact, it's really nothing. That Su Qing was overbearing himself, and you only defeated him but didn't injure him. The myriad Link County's county governor probably wouldn't be so petty. Xiao Sun lightly smiled as he spoke and eased up the atmosphere at their table. Xiao Yu and Tian Hu nodded in agreement. As for Duan Ling Tian, he paid no attention to it. Myriad Link County? He wasn't even afraid of nobles like the third prince and the fifth prince. How could he be afraid of a puny county governor? At this moment, the entire cafeteria was practically filled with discussion about Duan Ling Tian revealing a cultivation at the origin core stage and defeating Su Qing. Duan Ling Tian once again became the focus of public attention. Duan Ling Tian frowned, as he didn't like the feeling of being gazed at as if he were a monkey at the zoo. And he casually ate some food before leaving the cafeteria and heading to the large tree on the side of the martial arts practice grounds to cultivate. On the cafeteria pavilion, a gray-clothed old man currently had a face full of astonishment. That kid actually broke through to the origin core stage? At dusk, at the gate of Paladin Academy, Duan Ling Tian parted ways with Xiao Yu and Xiao Sun. After exiting the gate, he noticed that there were people watching him, and among those people, 2 were his men, Zhao Gang and Zhang Qian. The other 5 people were unfamiliar. However, the strength of these people weren't even at the nascent soul stage. A cold smile appeared on the corners of Duan Ling Tian's mouth as he walked swiftly towards a remote alley. There had been quite a few people who had lost their lives in succession within this alley, and without exception, all these people wanted to kill Duan Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian had only just entered the alley when he felt cold gusts of wind come from behind him. In the blink of an eye, 5 middle-aged men had surrounded him. Duan Ling Tian noticed that the current 5 people looked at him with gazes that vaguely contained a trace of greed, and they were obviously seeking something. Looks like these people were requested by someone to do this and are only taking money to do a job, Duan Ling Tian thought inwardly. You all are doing this job for money, right? I'll give you double the price of what that person gave you. Duan Ling Tian looked at the man in the lead of the 5 people. This was a man with a scar on his face. He had a vicious expression, and with a glance, anyone would know that he wasn't a good person. Including the man with the scar, all 5 of them couldn't help but be stunned when they heard what Duan Ling Tian said. Kid, the streets has its own rules. Since we Crimson North's 5 Tigers have accepted the money and have concluded this deal, even if you pay 10 times the amount, it's still of no use. The man with the scar grunted coldly, and as he finished speaking, his words took a turn. Of course, although you can't escape death, if you want to buy the life of that person who sent us, as long as you pay us now, we guarantee to take care of that person after your death. Duan Ling Tian couldn't help but be stunned after he heard what the man with the scar said. Even that is possible? Of course. We take money to do a job. We recognize money, not people. The man with the scar spoke as if it was natural and right. Then how much money must I pay for you to kill that person? Duan Ling Tian's eyes narrowed, and he held a smile within the corners of his mouth. The man with the scar didn't hesitate at all as he directly said, 100,000 silver. 100,000 silver? Duan Ling Tian brows knitted. Then how much did he use to buy my life? You're a student of Paladin Academy, so your life is more expensive. 200,000 silver, the man with the scar said. 200,000 silver? Duan Ling Tian was stunned for a moment before letting loose to a torrent of abuse under the dumbstruck gazes of the man with a scar and the 4 other men. F***K. This young master's life is only worth 200,000 silver. 200,000 silver is already a lot. One of the men within the scarred man's group mumbled. 200,000 silver is a lot? Duan Ling Tian sneered and raised his hand. A stack of silver bills appeared on his hand, and they all were of the 10,000 denomination. Now, there's 1 million silver in this young master's hand. As long as you can kill this young master will give it all to you. How about it? The scarred man's group of 5 were all dumbstruck when they heard what Duan Ling Tian said. They'd done many business deals, but it was the first time they'd encountered such circumstances. You're speaking the truth? The scarred man fiercely gulped down a mouthful of saliva and had a face full of disbelief. You better not fool me, Wang Dehu, or else you'll have to suffer. The name of Wang Dehu is well known in the streets. How well known? Right at this moment, a chilly voice sounded from behind him. Duanling Tian shook his head and smiled as he looked at the two men who had walked over from afar. Why did you two come out so quickly? I haven't finished playing. Haven't finished playing? With the scarred man, Wang Dehu, in the lead, all of the Crimson North's 5 tigers were completely stunned when they heard what Duanling Tian said, and a bad premonition arose within their hearts. They turned their heads around one by one and looked at the source of the voice. There, they saw 2 middle-aged men walking over shoulder to shoulder. Above each of the 2 middle-aged men were 1,000 ancient mammoth silhouettes. A total of 2,000 ancient mammoth silhouettes dashed out with them. Nascent, 7th-level nascent soul martial artists. Wang Dehu's pupils constricted, his face filled with terror, and his legs started trembling. His other 4 brothers were no better than him, as they all had ghastly pale faces and didn't even dare to raise the suggestion to flee. What a joke. Before a 7th-level nascent soul martial artist, it was absolutely impossible for them to have the opportunity to flee. Now, they only hoped that his violet-clothed youth would spare them. Putong. Putong. Under Wang Dehu's lead, the 5 of them directly knelt around Duanling Tian and lowered their heads. They seemed extremely dispirited. Slap. Wang Dehu raised his hand and gave himself a slap, and he pleaded for mercy with a trembling voice. Young master, we have eyes, but we failed to see and have offended you. You're a great and magnanimous man. Just think of us as trash and spare our lives. Now he finally realized that this youth was only just playing with them earlier. At the same time that he was frightened to the point terror, a trace of rage seemed to arise within his heart. This rage was naturally towards that person who paid them to kill the youth. If he knew that the target this time had 2 7th-level nascent soul martial artists beside him, not to mention 200,000 silver, even if he were to be given 10 million silver, he still wouldn't dare. Even though the money was tempting, his life was more important. Duanling Tian was startled by the actions of the 5 of them, as he never expected them to be so straightforward. Weren't you all some Crimson North's 5 tigers? Can't you have a little bit of backbone? Duanling Tian glanced at Wang Dehu before lightly smiling. Young master, before you, we can only be the Crimson North's 5 cats. Wang Dehu had a long face as he laughed bitterly. Now he only hoped that the violet-clothed youth before him would spare the lives of him and his brothers. Crimson North's 5 cats? That does suit you all. Zhang Qian, who was standing beside Duanling Tian, couldn't help but laugh. Crimson North's 5 cats, make a few sounds for me. Zhao Gang laughed as well, and his calm gaze descended upon Wang Dehu's group of 5. Meow. Wang Dehu's face flushed. Although he felt embarrassed, when he thought about how his life was within their hands, he could only lower his head and cry like a cat. Meow. Meow. The other 4 people started crying out as well, and their bodies that knelt started trembling. They knew in their hearts that as long as this youth were to order it, their heads and bodies would surely be separated. Duanling Tian frowned. When he saw Wang Dehu's group of 5's terrified appearances, he didn't even have the interest to teach them a lesson anymore. I can spare your lives, but you must tell me who paid to have me killed. I wonder if you all want to continue acting the part of unyielding men and continue to abide by the so-called street rules. Or do you all want your own lives? Lives, we want our lives. Hearing that they had a chance to live, Wang Dehu's group of 5's eyes shone as they spoke at the same time. What? Now you don't care about rules? A cold smile appeared on the corners of Duanling Tian's mouth. Wang Dehu's group of 5 laughed bitterly. Their lives were on the line. What rules would they care about? No rule was more important than their lives. Speak, who paid for my life? Duanling Tian asked indifferently. Hammer 7, Wang Dehu said. 1. Hammer 7? Do you know who he is? Duanling Tian frowned. Yes. He's a gangster within the Imperial City's outer city. Wang De hurriedly nodded. Let's go. Take me to him. Duan Ling Tian looked at the sky to judge the time of day. At this time, the city gate leading to the outer city had only just opened, and after he finished dealing with this, he should be able to be back before the gate closes. Imperial City, Outer City. Duan Ling Tian sat within a guest room in an inn and leisurely drank some tea. Besides Zhang Qian and Zhao Gang, who were standing behind him, Wang De respectfully stood at the side with a perturbed expression. Wang De, didn't you say that Hammer 7 was near here? It's already been more than 10 minutes, and your 4 brothers haven't returned. They wouldn't have walked out on you, right? Duan Ling Tian looked at Wang De, who as a trace of coldness flashed within his eyes. Don't worry, young master, we Crimson North's 5 tigers. Wang De, who had only just started speaking when he noticed Duan Ling Tian's fierce gaze, and he hurriedly corrected himself. No, it's Crimson North's 5 cats. We Crimson North's 5 cats are famous for our loyalty. This is something young master can be at ease of. I hope it's as you say. Duan Ling Tian swept Wang De, who with his cold and indifferent gaze before continuing to drink his tea. A cup of tea was quickly finished by him. Right at this moment, Zhang Qian opened the door. Duan Ling Tian's brows knitted as he suddenly spoke. Although Zhang Qian felt it to be slightly strange, he still went to open the room's door. Meanwhile, he heard the sound of footsteps coming from outside, and it was the other 4 men of the Crimson North's 5 tigers carrying a sack as they returned. There was obviously a person within the sack that was making crying sounds, and he was unceasingly struggling. After they had all come in, Zhang Qian closed the door and looked at the violet-clothed youth that sat there with a carefree expression. He felt surprised inwardly. The sound insulation effect of this inn was extremely good, and he didn't notice in the slightest that the other 4 members of the Crimson North's 5 tigers had returned. How did the young master know? Not only Zhang Qian, but even Zhao Gang's pupils couldn't help but constrict now. They both realized that there was still much they had to learn from the young master. Young master, we've brought him. The other 4 members of the Crimson North's 5 tigers tossed the sack onto the ground. A shrill cry echoed out from within the sack before the 4 of them opened it up. A young man who had his hands tied behind his back appeared before Duan Ling Tian's eyes. The young man had a ball of cloth stuffed within his mouth. He was currently making mumbling noises in rage and was furiously staring at the Crimson North's 5 tigers. If you dare make another noise, I don't mind taking a slice at your throat. Duan Ling Tian extended his hand, and his violet myrtle flexible sword seemed to transform into a violet bolt of lightning as it descended onto the young man's neck, causing the young man to be terrified to the point that his body trembled and he hurriedly shut his mouth. Meanwhile, Duan Ling Tian started to size up this young man before him. OM. The violet myrtle flexible sword within Duan Ling Tian's hand trembled as it flicked out the ball of cloth within the young man's mouth. Even with the ball of cloth gone, the young man still obediently kept his mouth shut and didn't dare to make a sliver of a sound, as the sword on his neck was no joke. Duan Ling Tian stared fixedly at the young man before indifferently speaking. You should be Hammer 7. Speak. Who asked you to get someone to kill me? Hammer 7's face went deathly pale. You're Duan Ling Tian? Slap. Zhang Qian's body moved. He raised his hand before slapping Hammer 7 in the face and said, with a cold and indifferent voice, Is the young master's name something you can speak? Yes, young master, young master. Hammer 7 was stunned by the blow and didn't dare hesitate as he hurriedly nodded. The name, Duan Ling Tian, was spread and gave rise to much discussion within the Imperial City as of late. As long as it was a person from the Imperial City, they practically all knew who Duan Ling Tian was, and thus he naturally knew as well. So even if someone had asked him to get someone to kill Duan Ling Tian, he didn't dare brazenly commit it. Thus, he could only find some rash people who'd only just arrived at the Imperial City and hadn't heard of Duan Ling Tian's name and get them to go kill him. He originally thought that the matter would go smoothly, but now it seemed that what happened was completely different from what he'd imagined. He regretted it now. If he had known earlier, he wouldn't have been greedy and gotten these unreliable fellows to do the deed. What Crimson North's 5 tigers? The name sounds great, but in the end they were captured. I'm asking you who asked you to get someone to kill me? Duan Ling Tian's gaze was fierce, and his icy cold voice seemed to emanate from an icy cold pit. Young master, I can't. If I were to speak, I'd die. Hammer Seven's face was ghastly pale as he laughed bitterly. Believe it or not, I can make you die right now. Duan Ling Tian raised his hand, and the violet myrtle flexible sword flashed out with a whoosh as it cut off an eyebrow hair from Hammer 7. Hammer 7's face went deathly pale as he said, in panic, Young master, I'll speak. I'll speak. Speak, who was it? Duan Ling Tian's tone was calm, but mixed within was a breathtaking rage. He wanted to know who the heck wanted his life. No matter who it was, he wouldn't let that person off. It's Hongji, young master. It's Hongji. He gave me 3 million silver and asked me to find some honest people to deal with you, Hammer 7 hurriedly said. 3 million silver? Wang Dehu and the other 4 Crimson North's 5 tigers' faces went grim as they stared angrily at Hammer 7. If it wasn't for the presence of Duan Ling Tian, they'd probably have charged at Hammer 7 at the first moment and killed him. This Hammer 7 had taken 3 million silver from another and only gave them 200,000 silver, and it nearly cost them their lives. Hongji. Duan Ling Tian frowned as he felt that the matter was becoming even more complicated. Young master, I've heard of this Hongji. He's a local tyrant within the Imperial City Outer City. Allegedly, he has a relationship with the Shao clan's patriarch. Zhao Gang seemed to recall something as he slowly spoke. Duan Ling Tian nodded, and his icy cold gaze once again descended onto Hammer 7 as he indifferently said, Hand over the 3 million silver. Yes, yes. Young master, I have 2,800,000 silver here. The other 200,000 silver is with them. Hammer 7 obediently withdrew a stack of silver from his pocket and didn't forget to look at Wang Dahu's group. Wang Dahu glared at Hammer 7 and didn't dare hesitate as he obediently withdrew the 200,000 silver. Wang Dahu. Duan Ling Tian suddenly spoke. Young master, I'm here. Wang Dahu took a step forward with incomparable respect. Kill him and make it clean. Duan Ling Tian's voice was calm to the point that it was terrifying, and it caused Hammer 7's face to go deathly pale. But unfortunately, he didn't even have the chance to beg for mercy when Wang Dahu punched his head apart. Above Wang Dahu, 100 ancient mammoth silhouettes condensed into form. 7th level of the Origin Core stage. A trace of satisfaction flashed within Wang Dahu's eyes as he looked at Duan Ling Tian with a face full of gratitude. Thank you, young master, for allowing us 5 brothers to vent our frustrations. Wang Dahu. Just at this time, Duan Ling Tian looked at Wang Dahu, and Duan Ling Tian's gaze focused on him as he spoke in a slightly cold voice. I'll give you a chance. Take the 200,000 silver in your hands and leave. As for the lives of your 4 brothers, they must remain here, or else all of you must die. Duan Ling Tian, abruptly turning hostile, completely exceeded the expectations of Wang Dahu's group of 5, and their faces all went pale. You're going back on your words. Wang Dahu's face went grim. He stared furiously at Duan Ling Tian, as he never thought that Duan Ling Tian wouldn't keep to his word. You're courting death. Zhang Qian's icy cold voice sounded as he kicked out his leg in a flash, kicking Wang Dahu flying into the wall. He fell to the ground with a crash. Wang Dahu spat out a few mouthful of bloods in succession, and his rage-filled gaze that still had unwillingness mixed within descended onto Duan Ling Tian. Boss. The other 4 members of the Crimson North's 5 tigers were incomparably grievous and indignant. Wang Dahu, this is the last chance I'm giving you. I hope you cherish it. Duan Ling Tian's gaze descended onto Wang Dahu as he spoke indifferently. Even if Wang Dahu, died, I would still not abandon my brothers. Wang Dahu gnashed his teeth. Although he was afraid of death, when he thought about how he had to use the lives of his brothers who'd gone through thick and thin with him in exchange for his own life, he refused Duan Ling Tian. Even if he were to survive out of luck, his heart wouldn't be at ease for the rest of his life. Boss, leave. Boss, we know you're loyal. but we still hope that you can live on and help take care of our families. Boss, live well. The other four seemed to have realized that they were faced with imminent danger now and hurriedly persuaded him. Second brother, third brother, fourth brother, fifth brother. Wang De, whose eyes were filled with blood as he looked at the four men before him. Zhang Qian's and Zhao Gang's brows twitched. As members of the army, they were particular about loyalty towards friends and family. When they saw Wang De, whose group of five like this, admiration couldn't help but be aroused within their hearts, and they felt sympathy. Right when they were about to speak and ask Duanling Tian to show mercy. Congratulations, Wang De, you've passed my test. The icy cold expression on Duanling Tian's face instantly melted, and he picked up the 2,800,000 silver hammer 7, took out and put away 2 million silver before tossing over the other 800,000 silver to Wang De. After you've cleaned this place up, take this 1 million silver and leave the imperial city with your four brothers. The sudden change caused Wang De's group of five to be stupefied. Zhang Qian and Zhao Gang had smiles on their faces instead, and the gazes with which they looked at Duanling Tian were even more full of admiration. Thank you, young master, thank you, young master. Wang De's group of five once again knelt down and repeatedly kowtowed. This time they truly were grateful to Duanling Tian. I'll leave this place for you to deal with. I still have matters to attend to. I'll be leaving first. Duanling Tian swept Wang De's group of five with his gaze. The corners of his mouth curled into a smile. He left with Zhang Qian and Zhao Gang. Young master, if Wang De had abandoned his four brothers and left, what would happen? Outside the inn, Zhang Qian followed behind Duanling Tian and couldn't help himself from asking. If he chose to abandon his brothers, then they would all die. Duanling Tian's tone was calm. It was as if he was talking about an extremely normal matter. In his heart, if Wang De were to choose in that way, then even he couldn't convince himself to let Wang De's group go. Zhang Qian and Zhao Gang exhaled a deep breath of cold air when they heard what Duanling Tian said. They glanced at Duanling Tian in tacit understanding and with profound gazes. They didn't have a shred of doubt that once this youth matured, he would surely be an outstanding person. Duanling Tian's gaze focused as he looked at Zhang Qian. Zhang Qian, do you know where Hongji usually is? Zhang Qian was rather acquainted with Hongji, and before long, Duanling Tian sought out Hongji. After some time of coercion and threats, Duanling Tian pried open Hongji's mouth and gave him over to be taken care of by Zhang Qian and Zhao Gang. Unexpectedly, the two of them directly killed Hongji. You too. Duanling Tian was stunned. Zhang Qian laughed slyly. Young master, this Hongji's committed all sorts of wicked deeds, and I've wanted to teach him a lesson since long ago. Then why didn't you two teach him a lesson before? We were afraid of his relationship with the Shao clan's patriarch before this. Why aren't you afraid now? We've already killed 2 Su clan direct descendant disciples, and we've already put everything on the line. This Hongji doesn't make a difference. Duanling Tian was slightly speechless towards the reason Zhang Qian and Zhao Gang provided. Why did it sound like it was he who led Zhang Qian and Zhao Gang astray? This Hongji actually has a spatial ring as well. 30 million silver? After Duanling Tian established ownership over Hongji's spatial ring and saw the huge pile of silver within, he couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. Logically speaking, it's impossible for this Hongji to be so rich. It's probably the money that Duan clan member gave him. Zhang Qian guessed. Humph. This Hongji said he only received 5 million silver. We were nearly cheated by him. Duanling Tian snorted coldly. The inner city gates are going to close soon. Let's go. Now that he had achieved his objective, the remaining matters were within the inner city. Duanling Tian's gaze focused as a breathtaking killing intent arose within him. Duanling Tian found out from Hongji that the Duan clan's second master's men were the ones that sought his help, and the person behind the scenes became obvious. It was precisely the Duan clan's second master, Duanling. After entering the inner city, Duanling Tian said to Zhang Qian and Zhao Gang, "You two observe Duanling tonight. I want to know if he's returned to the Duan clan estate or gone to another place." After you've finished your investigation, return and report to me." "Yes, young master." Zhao Gang and Zhang Qian hurriedly nodded. They had already guessed what the young master had planned. The young master intends to kill that Duan Ru Lei. Even though they knew that Duan Ru Lei was the Duan clan's second master and had an extraordinary identity, they had already killed 2 Su clan direct descendants. Thus, they didn't feel like anything was wrong with it. According to what the young master said, as long as it's done cleanly and no clues are left behind, then there's no danger of anything going wrong. The night was dark with strong gusts of wind. It was a perfect night to kill someone. Outside a courtyard house within the inner city, 3 black-clothed and masked figures silently leapt over the wall and snuck into the courtyard house. They were precisely Duan Ling Tian, Zhang Qian, and Zhao Gang. After Zhang Qian and Zhao Gang tracked him for an entire night, they confirmed that Duan Ru Lei had arrived at this courtyard house and didn't return to the Duan clan estate. This courtyard house was double the size of the one Duan Ling Tian possessed. Presently, the lights within were completely extinguished, and it was extremely quiet. Seems slightly off. Suddenly, Duan Ling Tian's sensitive spiritual force trembled, as he had vaguely perceived something. Not only that, he even noticed that the 2 little pythons inside his sleeve were now restless as if they had noticed something. After taking a deep breath, Duan Ling Tian brought Zhang Qian and Zhao Gang along as he continued forward. Since he'd come, he didn't wish to return empty-handed. Moreover, as far as he was concerned, what threat could a cripple pose? Even if he had someone protecting him, Duan Ling Tian wasn't afraid of it. As long as it wasn't a half-step void stage expert, he could deal with it by relying on his bone corrosion inscription. Whoosh! Right when Duan Ling Tian, Zhang Qian, and Zhao Gang had just arrived at the center of the front courtyard, a clear sound echoed out and lights were lit in an instant, illuminating the entire front courtyard. Whoosh! 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 At the same time, 3 figures flashed out and surrounded Duan Ling Tian's group of 3. When these 3 people moved, there were 1,000 ancient mammoth silhouettes above each of them, 3 7th-level nascent soul martial artists. The 3 men who appeared were 3 old men, and they looked at Duan Ling Tian's group of 3 with a burning gaze. Duan Ling Tian's pupils constricted and his face went grim, but because his face was covered, nobody was able to notice it. Never had he imagined that he would actually be noticed. However, he didn't mind 3 7th-level nascent soul martial artists. As long as he could get Zhang Qian and Zhao Gang to join forces and kill one of them, he could use the bone corrosion inscription on his spatial ring and the one on violet myrtle flexible sword to instantly kill the other 2. Duan Ling Tian, needless to say, I've underestimated you. Right at this moment, accompanied by an icy cold voice, a middle-aged man with a dignified expression walked out slowly from the house's main building. A green-clothed old man followed by the side of the middle-aged man. Although it was the first time he had seen this middle-aged man, when he looked the middle-aged man's brow, Duan Ling Tian was able to notice a similarity to Duan Ling Xing, and thus Duan Ling Tian guessed his identity. Duan Ru Lei. However, Duan Ling Tian's attention wasn't on Duan Ru Lei, but on the green-clothed old man beside Duan Ru Lei. The green-clothed old man had a thin figure, and his entire body seemed scrawny, but he gave Duan Ling Tian a very profound feeling, an extremely dangerous feeling. Based on the experiences of Rebirth Martial Emperor, Duan Ling Tian knew that this old man wasn't ordinary. The old man's strength might even surpass an ordinary 9th-level nascent soul martial artist. Half-step void stage. Duan Ling Tian took a deep breath. At this moment, he could feel his heartbeat getting faster. Probably isn't a half-step void stage. Duan Ling Tian consoled himself. What? Duan Ling Tian, you're still unwilling to be frank and meet this second uncle of yours? Duan Ru Lei's gaze descended onto Duan Ling Tian's figure as he spoke indifferently. Duan Ling Tian took a deep breath and removed his mask to reveal his face. Since he'd been recognized, there was no reason to continue wearing it. Now he could almost be certain that he'd been entrapped by Duan Ru Lei tonight. Duan Ru Lei obviously provided him with the illusion of going after easy prey. As expected, he slightly resembles Duan Ru Feng. Duan Ru Lei's gaze focused when he saw Duan Ling Tian's appearance, and a sense of rage seemed to arise within him. It was as if he had returned to the past, and once again recalled the scene that year when Duan Ru Feng crippled his Dantian. I'm extremely curious. How do you know I was coming? Duan Ling Tian looked at Duan Ru Lei as he asked. It can only be said that those two beside you were unprofessional when trailing me. They were see-through by Senior Ku since the beginning. As he spoke up to this point, Duan Ru Lei slightly stopped for a moment and smiled to the green-clothed old man beside him with a smile that seemed to contain a sense of reverence mixed within. Young master, we're sorry. Zhang Qian and Zhao Gang never expected that the problem arose because of them, and their pupils constricted as they apologized with bitter tones. Duan Ling Tian glanced deeply at the green-clothed old man. Zhang Qian and Zhao Gang had followed him for some time and had improved their tracking skills. Duan Ling Tian was certain that even if they were to go trail an ordinary 9th-level nascent soul martial artist, they might not be noticed. Could it be that this green-clothed old man was really a half-step void stage powerhouse? Duan Ling Tian, how is it? Are you afraid now? A trace of mockery was mixed within Duan Ru Lei's gaze. It was as if he wanted to see Duan Ling Tian's terrified expression. Afraid? Duan Ling Tian's gaze focused when faced with Duan Ru Lei's question, and he smiled indifferently. Why should I be afraid? Humph! Duan Ru Lei snorted coldly. You're about to die, and you still dare be stubborn. Then I'll make it clear to you. This is my private courtyard house. Including Senior Ku and those three, they're not members of the Duan clan. So don't you think that they'll give consideration to the fact you're a Duan clan direct descendant and show mercy? Therefore, I'll undoubtedly die today, right? Duan Ling Tian's tone was calm. To outsiders, it would seem as if he'd given no thought to life and death and was completely indifferent to it. It's good that you know. Duan Ru Lei's face had a layer of frost on it as he sneered, Now, do you regret killing my son? If I say I regret it, could it be that you'd let me go? Duan Ling Tian asked rhetorically. He still had a carefree expression on his face. It's naturally impossible. Today, you must die no matter what. Duan Ru Lei's gaze went cold when he proclaimed his determination to kill Duan Ling Tian. Then doesn't that suffice? If I regret it, I'll die. If I don't regret it, I'll still die. Why should I regret? Maybe I, Duan Ling Tian, will have things to be sorry about during my lifetime, and there will be a moment that I feel regret. However, I've never once regretted killing your son. Not in the past, not now, and not in the future. Duan Ling Tian's gaze was like a sword as it focused onto Duan Ru Lei. He spoke in a neither humble nor arrogant manner. Good, good. Duan Ru Lei started laughing out of extreme fury. As expected of the son of Duan Ru Feng, you sure enough possessed the demeanor he had all those years ago. Subsequently, Duan Ru Lei's gaze sized up Duan Ling Tian. I heard from my nephew that your cultivation had currently stepped into the origin core stage. If I remember correctly, you seem to be only 18 this year. An 18-year-old origin core martial artist. In terms of natural talent, you're virtually more monstrous and heaven-defying than your father all those years ago. But unfortunately, you're going to die here today. Obviously, Duan Ru Lei had heard from Duan Rong about what happened at Paladin Academy this morning. Duan Ling Tian relied upon his cultivation at the origin core stage to defeat the former number 1 genius of Paladin Academy, Su Qing. An 18-year-old at the origin core stage? The green-clothed old man beside Duan Ru Lei spoke, which was a scene that was hard to come by. His voice was slightly hoarse, and a strange luster flickered within his eyes. Not to mention the Crimson Sky Kingdom, even in the younger generation of the entire Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. I'm afraid such natural talent can still be considered to be at the top. How unfortunate. However, being able to kill such a monstrous talent in my lifetime can truly be considered as good fortune. A trace of cold intention slowly appeared on the corners of the green-clothed old man's mouth. On his body, strands of a bizarre aura stretched out. Duan Ling Tian's sensitive spiritual force reacted to this aura at the first possible moment, causing his pupils to constrict. Half-step void stage. Now he could finally be completely certain. The old man before him was a half-step void stage powerhouse. You know of the half-step void stage? The green-clothed old man was briefly surprised when he heard what Duan Tian said, and his pair of strange eyes flickered with a sheen of teasing intentions. Looks like you aren't simple, kid. Right. Someone who's able to control two 7th-level nascent soul martial artists should have some ability. Since when did an existence at the half-step void stage become a lackey for others? Moreover, being a lackey for a 9th-level body-tempering cripple, a cold smile appeared on the corners of Duan Tian's mouth as he mocked. The green-clothed old man didn't give in any reaction when Duan Rulei's face went gloomy. Duan Tian, don't you talk nonsense and sow discord amongst me and Senior Ku. Senior Ku is my esteemed guest, and I've always treated him like an elder. Kid, no matter how great you are at talking, it's still a waste of breath. If I were you, I would kneel and beg for mercy and kowtow to the second master. And maybe second master's mood might turn good and leave your corpse intact. The green-clothed old man didn't get angry or embarrassed. His voice was calm, but within it was a breathtaking coldness. At this moment, he seemed to have transformed into the judge of life and death in hell, and Duan Tian was only an ordinary person waiting to be judged. Kneel and beg for mercy? Corpse intact? The cold smile on the corners of Duan Tian's mouth grew even wider, and his fierce gaze descended onto Duan Rulei. Asking me to kowtow and beg for mercy? Old man, are you so old that even your brain isn't working? Can a cripple like him bear to receive it? Is a cripple like him worthy? Duan Tian. Duan Rulei's face was crimson red as he burst into rage. In these years, although he had lost his cultivation, his status in the Duan clan was extremely important. Who dare call him a cripple to his face? Now Duan Tian had repeatedly called him cripple, and this utterly enraged him. Senior Ku, I'll have to trouble you. Duan Rulei took a deep breath as killing intent flashed within his eyes. He looked at the green-clothed old man, as he didn't plan to waste his breath on Duan Tian anymore. Xing, father will take revenge for you right away. Duan Rulei's icy-cold gaze descended onto Duan Tian, as if he'd already seen the scene of Duan Tian dead on the ground. The green-clothed old man's expressions was extremely gloomy. He gave orders to the 3 old men that were surrounding Duan Tian's group of 3. Then he moved his gaze that was filled with mockery onto Duan Tian. You 3, take care of those 2 7th-level nascent soul martial artists. I'll personally deal with this kid. An 18-year-old origin core martial artist. Kid, I'll always remember you for my entire life. You'll be the first peerless genius to die at my hands. Yes. The 3 old men respectfully obeyed the orders of the green-clothed old man, and their bodies flashed before instantly pouncing towards Zhang Qian and Zhao Gang. 3,000 ancient mammoth silhouettes dashed out in tow. Zhang Qian and Zhao Gang's pupils constricted. They could only enter into battle with these 3 enemies that were evenly matched with them. Their enemies were more in number after all, and they were at a disadvantage in next to no time. Kid, you're going to die right away. Could it be that you aren't afraid? As the green-clothed old man took each step, the mockery in his eyes grew even darker. If I were afraid, could it be that you'd give me a way out? Duan Tian sneered, and he looked at the green-clothed old man as if he was looking at an idiot. You're courting death. The green-clothed old man's face went grim when he noticed Duan Tian's strange gaze. He got angry from embarrassment, and a killing intent that blotted out the sky and covered up the earth arose from him. This Duan Tian actually enraged Senior Ku. The corners of Duan Rulei's mouth curled into a cold smile when he saw this scene. Old goat, could it be that you really think you can kill me? Duan Tian had a calm gaze as he looked at the extremely enraged green-clothed old man that desired to kill him. Stop acting. The old man had a face full of disdain as he swiftly walked forward. Right at this critical moment, Duan Tian's leg jerked and origin energy rose explosively to allow him to flash backwards at an extremely swift speed. Then he explosively shouted, Uncle Nya, you still plan on watching the show? The green-clothed old man was stunned and stopped his footsteps. Duan Rulei couldn't help but frown. Kid, I originally intended for you to suffer a little longer, so you wouldn't dare act recklessly again. But never had I imagined that I'd actually let you notice me. Accompanied by a helpless but hearty laugh, a figure flashed in from outside the courtyard house and lightly descended before Duanling Tian, protecting Duanling Tian behind himself. This was a middle-aged man, and his entire body emitted a peerlessly domineering aura. It was precisely the divine might marquis, Nyeyuan. The corners of Duanling Tian's mouth slightly curled up and held a faint smile within. Not long after Duan Ru and the green-clothed old man appeared, he noticed Nyeyuan, who had concealed himself at the side. This was the reason why he could maintain that careless expression from start till finish. He understood in his heart that with Nyeyuan here, he couldn't die. General. Zhang Qian and Zhao Gang pulled away from their three opponents and saluted respectfully as they gazed at Nyeyuan. Divine Might Marquis. Duan Rulei's face went grim, as he knew of the friendship between Duanling Tian's father and the Divine Might Marquis all those years ago. For a moment, a bad premonition arose within his heart. But in next to no time, he caught his breath and relaxed. The Divine Might Marquis was in existence at the half-step void stage, and thus his strength was similar to Senior Ku's. His side still firmly had the upper hand. "You're the Divine Might Marquis?" The green-clothed old man's gaze descended onto Nyeyuan, and a trace of viciousness was mixed within. "I have heard that Divine Might Marquis Nyeyuan's strength is shocking, and that he is in existence at the half-step void stage. Today, this old man will seek guidance for a few moves from the Divine Might Marquis." Nyeyuan glanced at the old man indifferently. "I'll naturally accompany you if you want to seek guidance from me, but unfortunately, your opponent today isn't me." As Nyeyuan finished speaking, he moved. Whoosh! Duanling Tian only felt a flash before his eyes, and Nyeyuan had already vanished from where he stood. In the next moment, bang, bang, bang. The three existences at the 7th level of the nascent soul stage were all dead. Duanling Tian's pupils couldn't help but constrict, and his heart trembled as he gazed upon Nyeyuan, who seemed to instantly return to where he stood before. From the ability which Nyeyuan revealed earlier, he was obviously only a step away from the true void stage. It looked like the natural talent in the martial Tao of this Uncle Nyer of his was extremely high. You've already arrived at that last step?" The green-clothed old man was originally still wondering about what Nyeyuan said earlier, but when he saw the ability Nyeyuan revealed, his face went gloomy. Even within the half-step void stage, there's a slight difference in strength between each martial artist. Compared to him, Nyeyuan had undoubtedly gone farther and only lacked the last step before becoming a true void stage martial artist. In other words, a void-prying powerhouse. Whoosh! At almost the exact same moment that the green-clothed old man's face went gloomy, a figure silently snuck into the courtyard house and descended beside Nyeyuan. The person had a big and tall figure and wore a black outfit, and his face was covered by a Ghost King mask, and thus his face couldn't be seen clearly. Duanling Tian's face went slightly pale. He was actually unable to perceive the existence of this person in the slightest. There was only one possibility. This person was a void-prying powerhouse. A true void stage powerhouse. In the next moment, a scene that made Duanling Tian even more surprised appeared. The old man who was still ferocious-looking a moment ago, at the instant the ghost-masked man appeared. His face went deathly pale without a trace of blood, and he even directly knelt down on the ground with a putong sound as he trembled. Leader. The old man's voice contained infinite terror mixed within. This was a terror that stemmed from his heart, a terror that stemmed from his soul. Before the ghost-masked man, the old man didn't have any intention of resisting. As far as the old man was concerned, before the ghost-masked man, any resistance was futile, and kneeling down to plead for mercy might be the only way to obtain a way out. The ghost-masked man moved. His right hand slowly extended outward, and precisely at this instant, terrifying origin energy raged atop his right hand before moving to gather together. OM. A saber of light condensed from origin energy carried a mysterious and terrifying aura as it streaked past the old man's neck before he could even react to it. The old man, who was just trembling a moment ago, was instantly separated into two halves. Blood stained the entire ground and transformed into a small stream of blood. A half-step void stage powerhouse died just like that? Duanling Tian had an unrealistic feeling arise within his heart. Only after the ghost-masked man's body jerked and instantly vanished before him did Duanling Tian come back to his senses. If it wasn't for the old man's corpse being before his eyes, he would even doubt that the ghost-masked man had actually appeared. The green-clothed old man was a powerhouse that had stepped into the half-step void stage. But before the ghost-masked man, he seemed to be like paper. Take care of the rest yourself. Nye Yuan's voice entered Duanling Tian's ears. Duanling Tian's eyes flickered with a fierce light when he heard what Nye Yuan said, and his icy cold gaze descended onto Duan Rulei, who'd long since been stunned on the spot. Duan Rulei had a deathly pale expression, but he didn't flee, as even if he wanted to flee, with his mere 9th-level body tempering stage cultivation, he would not be able to go far. Everyone present, even Duanling Tian, whose cultivation was the lowest, was still capable of easily catching up to him. Spirit Serpent Movement Technique. Duanling Tian's body moved as if he had transformed into a spirit serpent, instantly flashing to arrive before Duan Rulei. Duan Rulei seemed as if he'd realized that he was facing imminent danger, and simply risked everything as he spoke with a vicious gaze. Duanling Tian, you're in luck that the Divine Might Marquis actually helped you. However, even if I become a ghost, I'll still not let you off. I wasn't afraid when you were still a man. Could it be that I would fear you as a ghost? Duanling Tian felt it to be laughable. Because of the ghost-masked man's appearance, Duanling Tian felt slightly depressed, so he didn't waste his breath on Duan Rulei. His violet myrtle flexible sword flashed out to directly end Duan Rulei's life. At the same time, he also put away Duan Rulei's spatial ring. He could imagine how this Duan Rulei, as the one who managed most of the Duan clan's businesses, would surely have extremely impressive amounts of wealth in his possession. Uncle Nya, who was that earlier? Duanling Tian put away Duan Rulei's spatial ring within his own spatial ring. He didn't even have the time to establish ownership on it before his gaze descended upon the nearby Nye Yuan. He could tell that his Uncle Nye should know of that person's identity. Otherwise, he wouldn't have said what he said to the green-clothed old man. But unfortunately, your opponent today isn't me. This sentence was more than enough to prove that Nye Yuan knew the ghost-masked man. He's an extremely terrifying person. A trace of fear appeared on Nye Yuan's face. He isn't a friend of Uncle Nye? Duanling Tian was stunned. Nye Yuan laughed bitterly. Of course not. Maybe I, the Divine Might Marquis, might look superior in the eyes of others, but in his eyes, I amount to nothing. I only happened to encounter him on my way here. The reason he came here was precisely to punish this traitor. As Nye Yuan spoke, he gazed upon the green-clothed old man's corpses, whose head and body had been separated. Traitor? This old man with a cultivation that had stepped into the half-step void stage was actually a former underling of that ghost-masked man? In next to no time, Duanling Tian came to an understanding. That ghost-masked man was a true void stage powerhouse after all, and thus it wasn't weird that he had such an underling. Uncle Nye, according to my knowledge, there are only 3 true void stage powerhouses within the Crimson Sky Kingdom. Besides the imperial families and grandfather Nye, there seems to only be the powerhouse from the ghastly shadow. Could it be that the person from before is him? Duanling Tian gazed at Nye Yuan as if he wanted to discern the answer from his face. Nye Yuan lightly smiled but didn't state anything, then his body moved to fly and leave. You too. Help this kid clean this place up? Duan Rulei is the Duan clan's second master after all, so you better not let the Duan clan find out it was you. Yes, General. Zhang Qian and Zhao Gang had faces full of respect as they sent of Nye Yuan with their gazes. So mysterious? Duanling Tian shook his head and didn't think of it any longer. In any case, whether or not that person was the void stage powerhouse of Ghastly Shadow had nothing to do with him. Duanling Tian slowly walked out as he removed the spatial rings from that green-clothed old man and the 3 old men one by one. Subsequently, with the help of Zhang Qian and Zhao Gang, He first incinerated all the corpses before tossing a ball of flame to burn the entire courtyard house. Flames shot into the sky as if raging flames were burning a city. Duan Tian's group of 3, however, walked out from within the burning flames and slowly vanished at the end of the road. Meanwhile, they could hear waves of people crying out in alarm from behind them. The matter was finally resolved. Duan Tian heaved a sigh of relief, but when he recalled what happened today, he still felt a lingering fear within his heart. If it wasn't for Uncle Nya appearing in time, his head would probably have been far from his body at this moment, as he didn't think that the ghost-masked man would have saved him. Maybe in the eyes of the ghost-masked man, all life was as worthless as straw and not worth mentioning. After he returned to his own house, Duan Tian entered his room and fell into a deep slumber. But right at this moment, the entire Duan clan was completely stirred. Duan Rulei, who played a decisive role in the Duan clan and controlled most of the clan's businesses, was burned to death in the night, and his courtyard house in the inner city was burned to ashes with him. Within the Duan clan estate's audience hall, Patriarch Duan Ruhua had a gloomy expression and gaze like lightning. Second brother is gone just like that? No matter who did it, even if my Duan clan has to dig 3 feet into the ground, we must still find the culprit to burn his bones and scatter his ashes so that we may console second brother's spirit in heaven. The patriarch is right. The second master left without any clear reason, and as such this ought to be done. Most of the Duan clan elders that were present nodded in agreement. However, when one looked at their expressions were mostly filled with indifference. Maybe in their opinion, Duan Rulei was just a cripple in the end. To them, with Duan Rulei dead, the businesses that were originally controlled by him would become unoccupied, and they could obtain a share as well. To a certain extent, the death of Duan Rulei was a good thing to them. Of course, they would only dare think like this in their hearts. The Duan clan's 4th master, Duan Ruhong, had a gloomy expression. It's really been troubled times lately. First, it was the 2 direct descendants of the Su clan that died in succession. Now second brother was burned to death without a clear reason. Could these 2 incidents be linked? 4th master, you're being too sensitive. According to my knowledge, the death of the 2 Su clan direct descendants seemed to be related to the Su clan's grand elder, Su Nan. Second master had no relationship with that Su Nan in the slightest. A Duan clan elder shook his head as he spoke slowly. What he said received the agreement of most of the people present. Whether they're related or not, my Duan clan will surely get to the bottom of this matter and give justice to second brother. Duan Ruhua's voice had a breathtaking fury mixed within. Patriarch, there's still another matter. I heard from my grandson that this morning, at the side of the Paladin Academy's martial arts practice ground, Duan Rufeng's son, Duan Tian, used his cultivation at the origin core stage to defeat Su Qing, the form number 1 genius of Paladin Academy. An aged Duan clan elder suddenly spoke. His grandson was a Paladin Academy student as well. What? Origin core stage? Second elder, you aren't joking, right? Duan Rufeng's son has stepped into the origin core stage? Yeah, second elder. According to my knowledge, Duan Tian is only 18 this year, right? He already has a monstrous endowment by being able to cultivate to the 9th level of the core formation stage, and he seems to have surpassed Duan Rufeng when he was the same age. But the origin core stage, impossible. Across the history of Out Crimson Sky Kingdom, there seems to never have been an appearance of an 18-year-old origin core martial artist. Even within the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, an 18-year-old origin core martial artist is considered to be an absolute monstrous genius in the martial Dao, an existence that all the huge sects would compete for. I feel it's impossible. The group of Duan clan elders didn't dare believe it, and they shook their heads. Silence. Right at this moment, Patriarch Duan Ruhua spoke and suppressed the clamorous discussion within the audience hall. I can bear witness on this matter, and what second elder said is true. At dawn today, Duan Rufeng's son, Duan Tian, indeed defeated Su Qing, and at that time, he didn't use a spirit weapon and was able to exert the strength of 16 ancient mammoths. The moment Duan Ruhua spoke, the entire audience hall became deathly silent, and the people present didn't doubt it any longer. Not using a spirit weapon and able to exert the strength of 16 ancient mammoths? As long as it was a normal martial artist, the first thought in their mind would be that it was an origin core martial artist attacking while holding back. After all, a ninth-level core formation martial artist that didn't utilize a spirit weapon would at most be able to exert the strength of 12 ancient mammoths. The strength of 16 ancient mammoths was something that only an origin core martial artist was capable of exerting. Patriarch, the old man that sat beneath Duan Ru Hua and had never spoken since the beginning, abruptly spoke. This old man had a head full of snow white, long hair and a pair of white brows that were curled upwards. Presently, his murky eyes seemed to have cleared away the mist before then and were emitting dazzling rays of light. Accompanied by the old man speaking, everyone within the audience hall, including Patriarch Duan Ru Hua, gazed respectfully at the old man. The old man was precisely the Duan clan's grand elder, and not only that, the old man had another identity: the previous Duan clan's patriarch, Duan Zhan. Since that Duan Ling Tian has such natural talent, we must be sure to use any means necessary to make him return to the clan and acknowledge his ancestors. He has even more potential than Duan Ru Feng all those years ago, and the Crimson Sky Kingdom will surely not be able to hold him in the future. As Duan Zhen slowly spoke, a flame flashed within his eyes. If he's able to be looked upon favorably by the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom's top sects, with the generosity of those sects, and for the sake of Duan Ling Tian, it wouldn't be impossible for them to bestow a Void Advancement Pill. Void Advancement Pill. The entire audience hall was deathly silent the moment Duan Zhen finished speaking, and all that remained was the sounds of heavy breathing. Void Advancement Pill. All of them naturally knew what medicinal pill it was. A Void Advancement Pill, Grade 5 medicinal pill, and could only be refined by a Grade 5 alchemist. Once a half-step Void Stage powerhouse consumes it, there is a 50% chance that the martial artist will break through to the Void Prying stage within 3 days. There was a 30% chance that the martial artist would break through to the Void Prying stage within 1 month. There was a 20% chance that the martial artist would break through to the Void Prying stage within 1 year. Even within the entire Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, a Grade 5 alchemist was in existence that was rare like phoenix feathers and Qilin horns. Besides the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom's imperial family, formidable powers that were capable of requesting the assistance of a Grade 5 alchemist to refine a Grade 5 medicinal pill were only those top sects that stood at the peak of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. If it were to be said that within the Crimson Sky Kingdom, beneath the imperial family, the various large clans were dominant, then within the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, beneath the imperial family, the various large sects were dominant. I heard that 30 years ago, the Celestial Element Kingdom's Yuan clan produced a peerless genius who stepped into the origin core stage at the mere age of 19. Later on, he entered the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom's Snow Moon sect and acknowledged the Snow Moon sect's Grand Elder as his master. Because of this, the Yuan clan obtained a Void Advancement Pill and thus attained a Void Prying stage powerhouse. After being reminded by the Grand Elder, another Duan clan elder couldn't help but sigh. I've heard of this as well. Another Duan clan elder nodded, and his eyes emitted a fiery gaze. Void Stage Powerhouse. It played a decisive role to the Duan clan. Within the Crimson Sky Kingdom, there were at least nearly 100 existences at the half-step Void Stage. However, within the entire Crimson Sky Kingdom, there were only 3 true Void Stage powerhouses. It was too difficult to step into the Void Prying stage. Without a certain level of natural talent, even an existence at the half-step Void stage would find it impossible to break through to the Void Prying stage within his lifetime. Within the history of the Duan clan, there had at least been more than 100 people who'd stepped into the half-step Void stage. However, there had never once been a single Void Prying stage powerhouse. That year, nearly everyone within the Duan clan thought that Duan Ru Feng would surely be able to break the Duan clan's history and become a Void Prying stage powerhouse. At that time, Duan Ru Feng could be considered as the most talented disciple within the Duan clan's history, but unfortunately, Duan Ru Feng vanished in the end and has not been heard of until today. As far as the Duan clan members were concerned, he'd surely been struck with disaster. Whereas now, the son of Duan Ru Feng, Duan Ling Tian, suddenly appeared with shocking feats and stepped into the origin core stage at the mere age of 18. Such natural talent aroused the ardor of the Duan clan's higher-ups for a moment. That year, they'd been looking forward to Duan Ru Feng becoming a void-prying stage powerhouse and leading the Duan clan to move up a step in the world. Now, with the lesson they learned from Duan Ru Feng, they anticipated Duan Ling Tian becoming a void-prying stage powerhouse, and they weren't willing to wait. They only hoped that Duan Ling Tian could enter a top sect within the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom and provide the Duan clan with an opportunity to obtain a void advancement pill. At that time, they'd allow a half-step void stage powerhouse within the clan to consume it and directly break through to the void-prying stage. In this way, not only would it not repeat the same road to possible disappointment like Duan Ru Feng, it would also allow the Duan clan to obtain a void-prying stage powerhouse within a short amount of time. Patriarch, I agree with what the Grand Elder said. No matter the cost, we must make Duan Ling Tian return to the clan and acknowledge his ancestors before allowing him to enter a top sect within the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom and help obtain a void advancement pill for our Duan clan. I agree with the Grand Elder as well. I agree. The moment they thought of how a void-prying stage powerhouse might appear within the Duan clan because of this, all the elders present within the audience hall were incomparably excited. Duan Ru Hong slightly frowned, as he felt that this was a slight aversion towards this decision. Since when did their Duan clan stoop down to the point that they needed to make use of a child? Grand Elder. Patriarch Duan Ruhua looked at Duan Zhan, and a bitter smile appeared on the corners of his mouth. It isn't that our Duan clan hasn't thought of getting Duan Ling Tian to return to the clan and acknowledge his ancestor. He's been unwilling all along, in my opinion. That child's inherited the temper of third brother and would absolutely not change his mind lightly. As I've said, we can pay any price for this, as long as it's something the Duan clan can accomplish. Duan Zhan's eyes were like a dazzling array of stars as he slowly spoke. Duan Ru, who secretly exhaled a breath of cold air when he heard this, as he could perceive the weight of what the Grand Elder had said. And just at this moment, the servant girl that had just finished pouring tea for all the Duan clan higher-ups within the audience hall left and walked into a vast courtyard. Within the courtyard, the fat woman's small eyes narrowed when she finished hearing what the servant girl said, and a cold light flashed within her eyes. My husband has only just died, and the Duan clan wants the murderer of my son to return to the clan and acknowledge his ancestors? And they're willing to pay any price just so he returns? The fat woman's fat trembled violently, as she was enraged to the utmost limit. I can't stay in this Duan clan anymore. That useless trash, Duan Roulette, is dead and can't take revenge for my son any longer. My clan. I must return to my clan. I'll take revenge for my son by myself. The fat woman packed up her things that same night and left the imperial city in a hurry at dawn next day. Paladin Academy. At dawn, Duan Ling Tian had only just entered the academy gate when he noticed that all the students he encountered on his way more or less stared at him with unusual gazes. Duan Ling Tian shook his head and smiled bitterly. Looks like it'll be difficult for him to have peace for a period of time because of that uproar from yesterday. Luckily, after a period of time, he would be temporarily leaving Paladin Academy to head to the Northwest Borders battlefield. When he was walking past the martial arts practice grounds, Duan Ling Tian brows knitted, as he'd noticed that 3 female students were arguing with each other nearby. More precisely speaking, it was 2 female students joining forces to bully another female student. Duan Ling Tian clearly saw the face of the female student that was isolated and helpless, and although she couldn't be considered to be a beauty, but her appearance was quite refined. Originally, he didn't plan to interfere in this matter. I heard that you've made Duan Ling Tian your idol, right? Among the 2 female students who had their backs towards Duan Ling Tian, one of them had a black whip in her hand and used a condescending tone as she asked the refined female student. Tongli. When Duan Ling Tian recognized the voice's owner, his eyes went cold. Everyone says that enemies are bound to meet, and today he could be considered to have completely experienced the meaning of this saying. Duan Ling Tian stopped his steps and narrowed his eyes as he paid attention to the development of the matter. What about me making Duan Ling Tian my idol? I admire him and like him. What about it? Am I forcing you to do the same? The refined female student said, with a flushed face. I can't be bothered if you admire another or like another, but that Duan Tian is my absolutely irreconcilable enemy, and whoever who makes him their idol is opposing me, Tong Li. Tong Li's voice was incomparably cold and indifferent, as if she was suppressing the extreme rage within her heart. Little by **H, do you know Miss Li's identity? Miss Li is the cousin of the fifth prince, and she isn't someone a commoner like you can offend. Quickly kneel and kowtow in apology while shouting Duan Tian's a bastard 100 times, and maybe Miss Li will show mercy and let you off. The female student beside Tong Li had one hand against her waist, and she extended the other hand to point at the refined female student's nose. She used Tong Li's status to bully the refined female student. You. The refined female student was enraged to the point that her breath became hurried. What? I'll give you the time of 3 breaths. If you still don't kneel and shout Duan Tian's a bastard, I'll whip your face into pieces. Tong Li waved the black whip in her hand as if it would swing out at any moment. The refined female student's face was pale, and her body lightly trembled, but she still gritted her teeth and wasn't willing to submit. Duan Tian's face sank as he walked over in large strides. In the end, he still couldn't stand by and watch any longer. Even though he didn't know that female student, she was, after all, being bullied by Tong Li because of him. Thus, since he'd noticed this matter, then he couldn't help but interfere. Accompanied by Duan Tian's approach, the refined female student's eyes shone, and her face revealed an idolizing expression. 3 breaths have passed. Looks like you're really thick-head. Tong Li didn't notice the expression of the refined female student, and her gaze went cold as she waved the black whip in her hand. As if transforming into a black, venomous snake, the whip moved to bite the refined female student. Because of noticing Duan Tian, the refined female student was slightly absent-minded and was completely not in time to react to Tong Li's whip. Instantly, her face went pale and terror rooted her to the ground, and she subconsciously closed her eyes. In next to no time, she felt a wave of fierce winds scrape past her face. She originally thought that pain would follow it, but unexpectedly, after hearing a bang, nothing came next. She opened her eyes. Only now did she notice that a violet-clothed youth had appeared before her eyes. The violet-clothed youth had his back to her and used his hand to grab hold of the whip that was swung towards her. For a moment, her face blushed and she could only feel her heartbeat getting faster. Tong Li's face went grim when she noticed that someone dared to stop her from teaching a lesson to another, and she was about to snap. However, she hadn't even opened her mouth before she became completely stunned, because the person that stopped her now wasn't anyone else but precisely that Duan Tian that she hated to the bones. Duan Tian's gaze went slightly cold as he exerted force with his hand to seize the black whip from Tong Li's hand. Miss Tong, I noticed that you seem to be uncomfortable if you don't put on airs for a day, but I wonder, how did this fellow student here offend you? Tong Li's face was ghastly pale as she shouted coldly, What's it got to do with you? What's it got to do with me? Duan Tian's eyes narrowed as his gaze moved from Tong Li to the female student beside Tong Li. Earlier, you asked this fellow student here to kneel and say what 100 times? Sorry, I didn't hear it clearly just now. The female student's face went deathly pale, as she only dared act that way earlier because Tong Li was beside her to support her. But now, how would she dare continue saying that? Are you kidding? This Duan Tian hit Tong Li until her head turned into a pig's head, right in front of her the other day. She didn't doubt in the slightest that if she were to dare repeat what she said earlier, Duan Tian would surely beat her head into a pig's head. I didn't say anything. The female student had a deathly pale expression. Her body was lightly trembling, and she lowered her head, not daring to look Duan Tian in the eye. Weren't you rather domineering earlier? Duan Tian sneered. His eyes focused and he shouted coldly, Kneel down! Duan Tian didn't look at this female student, who relied on Tong Li's status to bully others as a woman. Didn't you ask another to kneel down at every turn? Now I'll make you kneel down." The female student's body trembled when she heard what Duan Ling Tian said, and when she felt the faintly discernible killing intent on Duan Ling Tian's body, she gritted her teeth and eventually knelt down.
Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe.